Chapter 737. The 100-year-old Inchi in Chaotic Burial Valley had already dissipated. The cries and howls had also disappeared. However, the nearby villagers still didn't dare to get close to Chaotic Burial Valley. What happened to Old Master Zhao had scared everyone out of their wits. Everyone changed the sky burial to earth burial, although it was impossible to carry out a sky burial now. Mu Yu and Xiao Shui stood on top of Chaotic Burial Valley and looked at the ruins in front of them. The entrance of Chaotic Burial Valley was tightly covered by floating rocks. The rocks were protected by a powerful formation. Even Mu Yu didn't have the ability to break it. He could only rely on plants to enter. Now, Mu Ling didn't dare to use it casually. Therefore, he relied on the root grass to go to the bottom of Chaotic Burial Valley. Xiao Shui followed closely behind in the water spirit. The two passed through the cracks in the rocks and quickly arrived at the sealed space barrier. Mu Yu easily came to the gap that Akatsuki had corroded. However, when he was about to use the power of nature to repair the gap, he was stunned. It was unknown when the gap had been completely repaired by someone. "Oh, who else would come here besides us?" Xiao Shui said in surprise. Mu Yu was also very surprised by this situation. When he wanted to repair the gap, he didn't succeed. He only set up some array formations around the gap. But now, these array formations were destroyed, and the gap was restored to its original state. Could it be? Dragonvine exclaimed. It thought of a possibility. Sword, shadow, dust, wind. Mu Yu quickly touched the repaired formation pattern. He felt the power and vastness of the formation pattern. Then he shook his head. It's not Master's aura. Mu Yu's face darkened. At first, he thought that his master had personally come here to repair the gap. However, the spirit energy on the new formation pattern belonged to a stranger. It was different from the surrounding formation pattern. If the new formation pattern's aura came from his master, Mu Yu could at least be sure that his master had escaped. However, that wasn't the case. Then who could it be? There aren't many people in the cultivation world who are better at formations than you. It's not Elder Dead Tree, not Formation Heavenly Tao, not Sword Shadow, Dust Wind. Could it be Xie Bulo or Third Palace? Xiao Shui said hesitantly. Bai Jia wouldn't be so kind. The killing intent in Mu Yu's eyes disappeared in an instant. He was very clear about the spiritual energy of the Third Palace. As for Xie Bulo, his spiritual energy had an innate evil aura that could not be concealed. It was very easy to identify him. From the looks of it, only Phantom Rain, who he had never seen before, had such an ability. That's right, if we can find Phantom Rain, then we might be able to turn things around. Mu Yu had seen Phantom Qingyu in Taoist master Xian Jizi's image. Little Shui had also said that the phantom spirit he saw in the second heaven was following Phantom Qingyu. He would not be wrong about this, because phantom spirits and himself were both very strange existences. Phantom Rain was an immortal. After Jian Ing Chun Feng and Xiaoyu Lao got into trouble, Phantom Rain became the strongest person. He indeed had the ability to save Jian Ing Chun Feng. Phantom Rain should have arrived in the third heaven. Do you think he will go and save the white-bearded old man? Little Shui asked, full of hope. Mu Yu muttered to himself for a while, then said, no matter what the result is, we need to consider this matter at length. Since there is nothing here for the time being, we should hurry and find the Monster King and the others. We should see what they are planning. After confirming that there was no problem with the seal, he left the Chaotic Burial Valley and followed Xiao Shui out of the Moyen Mountain Range, heading towards the Azure Dragon Dynasty. They did not expect to catch up to the Sea Monster King in time. After all, the Sea Monster King's speed was much faster than theirs. According to Xiao Shui's estimation, they would need at least 10 days to reach the Azure Dragon Dynasty. After returning to the Third Heaven Continent, Mu Yu stayed in Misty Breath City for a while. He needed to inquire about some things. After all, Mu Yu had been away from the cultivation world for a year and a half. Many things should have happened during this time. Old Tree Leader once said that Yumon was already secretly looking for the 5 of them. Once he found one of them, he would forcefully transfer the slaughter force of the previous spirit, Lord Yumeng. The consequences would be unimaginable. Among the 5 of them, Xiang Nan was the one that Mu Yu was most worried about. This was because Xiang Nan's personality had become very stubborn. He wanted to rely on controlling cultivators to resist the Third Heaven Palace. Tu Yaman could definitely use this to make Xiang Nan fall into the slaughter force. In comparison, Cheng Yin was the most reliable senior brother. Anything could happen to anyone except for Cheng Yin. Mu Yu did not know what Luo Shang's current situation was, but Luo Shang knew what path he should take. Before he set down the Nine Heavens sealing demon formation, he was already more capable of suppressing Spirit Lord Yu Meng's power than Mu Yu. Nothing had happened to Qiao Shui. However, Mu Yu had to help Qiao Shui obtain the slaughter force that belonged to her. Only then would Qiao Shui not have any chance to affect her. Lanxi City was still the same as before. There were not many changes. Cultivators were still coming and going. They were either trading with each other, resting, exchanging information, or discussing interesting things in the cultivation world. There was nothing out of the ordinary. The handsome statue of Jian Ying and Chun Feng still stood on top of the city tower of Misty Breath City. Under this statue, there was a formation that protected the entire city. When Yu Meng entered the city, there would be a strong alarm. When Mu Yu walked into the city, he could already feel the faint fluctuations of the formation. However, he did not have much hope for this formation. After all, he had been attacked by Yu Meng when he had just left the Moyun mountain range. At that time, he did not know how Yu Meng had managed to sneak into the city. However, Mu Yu had already vaguely guessed it. Let's go to the inn to rest. There are more people there, so we can get more information. Mu Yu said. He and Xiao Shui walked on the road. They deliberately suppressed their cultivation. At this age, the cultivation of the nascent soul stage wasn't very eye-catching in the crowd. It could only be considered average. However, Xiao Shui was very beautiful. She was like a lotus flower that had just broken out of the water. She would always attract a few more glances on the street. I don't like crowded places. Xiao Shui pursed her lips. It's fine. We just need to confirm that nothing big has happened in the cultivation world. Mu Yu brought Xiao Shui into a relatively prosperous inn. Guests came and went in the inn. It was very lively. Many cultivators were discussing the news that they had heard. Mu Yu and Xiao Shui sat in a corner and ordered a table full of dishes and 2 large plates of chicken drumsticks. Xiao Shui was very happy. The discussions of the cultivators reached Mu Yu's ears, but they were all unimportant things, such as which small sect had a new Supreme Immortal. The ranking of the Supreme Immortals had been refreshed today, the members had changed again, and so on, and which sect's young master had made a name for himself in the cultivation world. After such a long time, Mu Yu had almost forgotten about the Supreme Immortal leaderboard. He was currently ranked 43rd. Back then, he had obtained this ranking after killing Ying Sha. After that, he had not appeared in the eyes of the world. Therefore, his ranking had not changed. Have you heard? The third-rate Western Immortal sect has a new genius. His name is Chu Kuang. In just a year, he has reached the body integration stage and squeezed into the 46th Supreme Immortal leaderboard. I remember that the Western Immortal sect's sect master, the Western Immortal Taoist, is only at the out-of-body stage. That's right. I heard that the Western Immortal Taoist was Chu Kuang's master. It should be something to celebrate that he cultivated such a talented person. However, Chu Kuang actually forced the Western Immortal Taoist to give up his position and took over the entire Western Immortal sect. He has the strength, and his cultivation is several levels higher than the Western Immortal Taoist. It's normal that he doesn't want to lower himself to others. Normal? That's just forgetting the source. Which normal person would force their master to give up his position? That's true. However, ever since Clearwater City's Sikong Chiwen, more and more dark horses have appeared in the cultivation world. That's right. Bei Huaili, Nan Shuda, Dong Renhua, and Shi Chu Kuang. These 4 people are known as the 4 heroes of the cultivation world. Although they are from a small sect, they are more famous than the outstanding disciples of the 8 sects. Speaking of which, Chu Kuang seems to be challenging the 45th Supreme Immortal in the Sword Cleansing Valley, the colored glass sword. The location is just outside Mist Breath City. I really have to go and take a look. The Supreme Immortals on the Supreme Immortal ranking are getting more and more powerful. In the past, the Supreme Immortals on the Supreme Immortal ranking were mostly disciples of the 8 sections. Ever since Sikong Chiwen, the Supreme Immortals of other small sects and clans have also appeared. The Threefold Palace has already announced to the world that the Supreme Immortal Ranking's final battle will be held in 8 months. At that time, all the Supreme Immortals will have to head to the center of the Threefold Continent. There will be a final battle there. If you don't go, you will be disqualified and the top 9 Supreme Immortals will be determined. The top 9 Supreme Immortals are known as the 9 Mystic Immortals. It will definitely be an unprecedented battle. I really want to know who the 9 Mystic Immortals of the human race will be. Nowadays, there are more and more dark horses in the cultivation world. We can't make an accurate prediction. However, I heard that the most popular one is the true God's disciple, Muyu. After all, the true God's disciple is the one who can create miracles the most. Many people want to challenge Muyu. However, Muyu has been missing for more than a year. The crowd was discussing fervently. Most of them were talking about the final battle of the Supreme Immortal ranking in 8 months. In other words, the 9 Mystic Immortals would be selected. Apart from Muyu, many people from the cultivation world were also considered. This included Fei Shue from the Earthly Imperial sect, Shiman Wuji from the Heretical sect, and the 4 heroes from the small sections. They were all popular candidates to become the 9 Mystic Immortals. Everyone was looking forward to seeing who would become the 9 Mystic Immortals. The final battle of the Supreme Immortal ranking? The 9 Mystic Immortals? Muyu shook his head slightly. Fortunately, he had used the illusion array to change his appearance. Otherwise, he would have been recognized. The current Supreme Immortal ranking had changed a long time ago. Dark horses would appear from time to time. The outside world thought that these people's rise was coincidental. Only Muyu knew the truth. These people were like Sikong Chiwen. They were all possessed by demons and were under Xiang Nan's control. If Muyu's guess was correct, the 4 heroes from the small sects of the cultivation world should also be possessed by demons. Isn't this a good thing? If the Threefold Palace gathers the Supreme Immortals to fight Yu Meng in the future, these Supreme Immortals will become a variable, right? Xiao Shui asked. Xiao Shui had already heard from Muyu about what had happened in Clearwater City. Initially, Muyu did not want to tell anyone about this. However, Xiao Shui was also a member of the cultivation world. Hence, she had to know. It's hard to say. The real commanders of the human race are the 9 Mystic Immortals. In my opinion, the 9 Mystic Immortals are all under the control of the Threefold Palace. Xiang Nan is still ranked 9th. He will become a thorn in the side of the Threefold Palace, Muyu said. The 9 Mystic Immortals were a supreme existence. Even the sect leaders of the 8 sects did not dare to offend them. Since the Threefold Palace's purpose of starting a war was to create a massacre, he naturally would not allow any unstable factors to appear in the leaders of this war. Do we need to help Xiang Nan? Xiao Shui asked. Muyu rubbed his chin and shook his head. Xiang Nan doesn't need our help. I have a better idea. Tell me, we want to become a 9 Mystic Immortals too. Chapter 738. Muyu was already at the body integration stage, so he had to raise his cultivation to a higher level in 8 months. The Supreme Immortal Leaderboard was originally created to fight against Yaman. The reason why the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard was scheduled for 8 months later was because Yaman had become even more rampant in the past year. He had engaged in countless conflicts with cultivators. Now, every city was on high alert to prevent Yaman from sneaking into the city again and causing unimaginable consequences. If cultivators encountered Yaman outside, they had to immediately find someone to help them eliminate Yaman. This information alone was not enough, but Muyu at least had a preliminary understanding of the current situation in the cultivation world. Yaman did not launch a large-scale attack, which meant that they had not found a leader yet. Xiao Shui, where did you get the water spirit? Muyu had never asked Xiao Shui this question. Now that he thought about it, he had obtained it after coming into contact with Old Tree Leader. So didn't this mean that Xiao Shui had also come into contact with Shui Yumeng? Grandpa Azure Dragon gave it to me. I didn't ask where it came from But the water spirit is a very useful item, Xiao Shui said with a shrug. Needless to say, you must have stolen it from Shui Yameng. Muyu said helplessly. With the Azure Dragon Monster King's strength, it was more than enough to find Shui Yameng and steal his holy item. At that time, Shui Yameng had no leader and could not resist the Azure Dragon Monster King. Xiao Shui smiled and did not refute. Do you feel that something is missing from the water spirit? When Muyu first obtained the Mu Ling was riddled with holes and had lost most of its spiritual energy. Old Tree Leader told him that only by killing people could the holes be repaired. Only by killing people could the Mu Ling's abilities be fully unleashed. Now that Muyu had obtained the power to kill and repaired the Mu Ling, he was very resistant to it. Something is indeed missing, but I don't know what it is, so I didn't look into it, Xiao Shui replied honestly. Just like Mu Ling, he became incomplete because he was deprived of the power to kill, Muyu said in a low voice. Xiao Shui fell into silence for a moment before she softly said, I've never killed anyone since I was young. I only killed some demonic beasts that were hard to tame. I don't like killing people. In the demon race, Xiao Shui's status was very high. The demon race treated her very well, so there was no need for her to kill anyone. She had never come into contact with cultivators, so she had never really killed anyone. Muyu held Xiao Shui's hand and said, Don't worry. Leave the killing to me and Shui Ling. You don't need to do anything. Just like how Muyu didn't personally kill the flesh-winged horn monsters, those moon people still died as life force and were absorbed by Mu Ling. Shui Ling also needed the power to kill. Only then would Shui Yu not be able to take advantage of the situation. Xiao Shui nodded. The two of them were about to leave the inn, but at this time, the inn suddenly quieted down. Two people walked in from the door, one old and one young. The younger one looked like he was only in his 20s, but his cultivation was at the Unity body stage. The old one had white hair and beard, and looked like he was in his 70s or 80s. He humbly bowed beside the young man, and his cultivation was only at the out-of-body stage. He looked like the young man's servant. After the old man and the young man walked into the inn, the entire inn was quiet for a moment. Then, whispers began to sound. Speaking of the devil, isn't that the 46th extreme, Immortal Chu Kuang? The one beside him is his master, the Western Immortal Taoist, right? Although his talent is good, he has forgotten his roots. I heard that the Western Immortal Taoist was forced to become Chu Kuang's servant. After his cultivation soared, not only did he snatch the position of sect master from his master, he even made his master his servant. He really raised an ingrate. I heard that this person used to have a good character, but after he became a dark horse on the extreme immortal ranking, he became unreasonable. No one in the Western Immortal sect dares to disobey his orders. Many people in the crowd were whispering to each other. Everyone recognized Chu Kuang's strength as one of the 4 heroes of the cultivation world. As for his character, he was disgraced by everyone. It was hard to believe that such a person would forget his roots. Go and book 2 rooms for me, Chu Kuang lazily said. Yes. Sectmaster, please wait a moment. The Western Immortal Taoist respectfully said. He didn't dare to neglect and quickly walked to the counter. Chu Kuang, on the other hand, glanced at the entire inn and finally walked towards the empty seat beside Muyu. Along the way, Chu Kuang inadvertently glanced at Xiao Shui's beautiful face, and his eyes suddenly lit up. What a beautiful girl, Chu Kuang exclaimed. He ignored the gazes of the people around him and wantonly swept his eyes over Xiao Shui's body. Muyu frowned. At this time, the Western Immortal Taoist quickly walked over. He glanced at Muyu and Xiao Shui's cultivation and inadvertently shook his head. There was a trace of worry in his eyes. He knew that his disciple, whose personality had changed greatly, was going to make a move on them again. Sectmaster, please sit here, the Western Immortal Taoist quickly said. However, Chu Kuang didn't pay attention to the Western Immortal Taoist at all. Instead, he went straight to Mu Yu's table and sat down as if there was no one around. Miss, I'm Chu Kuang. May I know your name? Chu Kuang also directly ignored Mu Yu. The Western Immortal Taoist quickly followed and said to Mu Yu and Xiao Shui, fellow Taoists, my sect master has taken a fancy to this seat. Do you two want to go somewhere else first? This meal is on me. Old fart, do you think you have the right to speak here? Chu Kuang suddenly raised his eyes, and a wave of qi swept out from his body and hit the Western Immortal Taoist. The Western Immortal Taoist was immediately sent flying and heavily slammed into the wall, creating a huge hole in it. Everyone secretly spat at Chu Kuang. This guy even dared to hit his own master so hard. He really wasn't afraid of being struck by lightning. Miss, we don't have to pay attention to that old man who ruined the mood just now. Miss, you're as beautiful as a fairy. Why don't you spend a good night with me? Chu Kuang's eyes revealed a trace of lasciviousness as he wantonly swept his eyes over Xiao Shue's body. Let's go. Xiao Shui didn't want to cause trouble and got up to leave the inn. Muyu also stood up silently and walked outside. However, Chu Kuang stopped them once again. Miss, where are you going in such a hurry? Chu Kuang laughed. All the onlookers shook their heads and didn't dare to stop them. Just now, the Western Immortal Taoist wanted the two of them to leave so that they wouldn't be harassed by his disciple. Unfortunately, Chu Kuang was so crazy that he even hit his own master so hard. How could he be so kind as to let these two go? Sigh. These two are really unlucky to have met someone like Chu Kuang. It's a pity for this lady. Such a beautiful flower is about to be destroyed. The onlookers shook their heads and sighed. Chu Kuang was a dark horse on the supreme immortal leaderboard. His strength was so high that no one dared to provoke him. They could only look at Xiao Shui and Muyu with sympathy. The Western Immortal Taoist struggled to get up from the ruins. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked disappointed. He was originally a good person, but after returning from Clearwater City, he became a completely different person. His cultivation improved rapidly, and everyone in the sect saw hope. However, they didn't expect him to become so temperamental. Muyu didn't look at Chu Kuang. Instead, he said calmly to Xiao Shui, "How about he be your first?" Xiao Shui hesitated for a moment, and there was a hint of struggle in her eyes. In the end, she gritted her teeth and nodded. Chu Kuang didn't know what Muyu was talking about, but he laughed. "What? Am I still your first man? That's lucky. However, you're not the first woman I've played with. Sectmaster, we're here to challenge the lapis lazuli sword of the Sword Cleansing Valley. I think we shouldn't cause trouble and let these two insignificant people leave." The Western Immortal Taoist walked over and said sincerely. Chu Kuang's expression turned cold. "Try saying another word." "If it weren't for the fact that you still have a use for me, I would have killed you long ago." The Western Immortal Taoist's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He hurriedly said, Yes, I know my mistake. Kneel to the side, you impatient bastard," Chu Kuang said coldly. The Western Immortal Taoist's face turned pale. He walked to the side and knelt down. Everyone was in an uproar again. This Chu Kuang was really inhumane. He actually made his master kneel to him in front of everyone. Muyu was very angry. What he hated the most were people who deceived their masters and killed their ancestors. Such a disloyal and unfilial guy deserved to die 10,000 times. He silently walked to the front of the Western Immortal Taoist and pulled him up from the ground. "Fellow Taoist, don't be impulsive. You should leave here quickly." The Western Immortal Taoist looked at Chu Kuang with some fear. He wanted to kneel down again, but Muyu's hand emitted a spiritual power that restrained his whole body. There was also a majestic spiritual power at his knees that prevented him from kneeling. The Western Immortal Taoist looked at Muyu with some shock. Muyu clearly looked like he was only at the nascent soul stage, but he, a dignified out-of-body cultivator, was restrained by his spiritual power and couldn't even move. Muyu patted the Western Immortal Taoist's shoulder comfortingly, then turned to look at Chu Kuang. "You want your master to kneel to you? Can you accept it with a clear conscience?" Chu Kuang coldly looked at Muyu, who only had nascent soul stage fluctuations, and sneered. "You want to protect this old fart?" Muyu smiled faintly. "I just saw injustice on the road." "Old fart. Did you tell him what happened to the person who protected you last time?" Chu Kuang sneered. The Western Immortal Taoist showed a pained expression. He bit his lips, closed his eyes, and said in a trembling voice, "The sect master's orders are everything. Anyone who disobeys will die. So you still remember. But I didn't tell you to stand up just now." A murderous intent pervaded the Western immortal Taoist. The Western immortal Taoist's face was already sweating like rain, but he couldn't kneel. "What? Do you still need me to help you?" Chu Kuang suddenly attacked. His figure flashed behind the Western immortal Taoist, and he kicked the Western immortal Taoist's knee. Bang! Chu Kuang's foot seemed to have kicked a solid wall, and the Western immortal Taoist's knee rippled. "You have some skills, but no one has ever dared to stop me from teaching my servant a lesson." Chu Kuang clenched his hand into a claw and grabbed the Western immortal Taoist's throat. But a sword slashed through Chu Kuang's hand, and the Western immortal Taoist was already taken away by Mu Yu. "Who are you? I've never heard of you." Chu Kuang looked at Mu Yu playfully. Mu Yu said calmly, "What? You're a beast, but you still can't change your despicable bestial nature? You." Chapter 739. Everyone thought that Mu Yu was calling Chu Kuang a beast, but only Chu Kuang himself knew what Mu Yu was talking about. "Say that again." Chu Kuang's eyes flashed with the wildness of a beast. He was enraged by Mu Yu's words, and a red light that didn't belong to a beast flashed in his eyes. A beast will always be a beast. Even if you wear human skin, you can't change your nature. Mu Yu shook his head. "How do you know? Who are you?" Chu Kuang roared. "The person who's going to kill you." Mu Yu's eyes flashed with hostility. He took out Helion Kong's soul tool and wrapped Xiao Shui's water spirit around it. The water spirit emitted a dazzling blue light and trembled in Mu Yu's hand, as if it was anticipating what would happen next. Everyone in the inn thought that they had heard wrong. Mu Yu, who looked like he was only at the nascent soul stage, wanted to kill Chu Kuang, who was ranked 46th on the Supreme Immortal ranking. Could it be that this guy was joking? Is there something wrong with this kid's brain? He's only at the nascent soul stage, but he dares to say such things. He knows that he's going to die, but he still wants to die with dignity? He's a real man. What a pity. He could have offended anyone, but he had to offend Chu Kuang. The surrounding self-cultivators shook their heads and sighed. They all looked at Mu Yu as if they were looking at a dead man. Everyone in the cultivation world had witnessed how powerful Chu Kuang was over the past year. They did not think that Mu Yu would be able to defeat Chu Kuang, a dark horse on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard who was far stronger than Sikong Chiwen. "You want to kill me? Who do you think you are?" Chu Kuang's body erupted with powerful body integration stage spiritual energy. The violent spiritual energy instantly tore the floor apart. All the self-cultivators ran away from Chu Kuang, afraid that they would be implicated. The Supreme Immortal ranking was no longer the same as before. There were many Supreme Immortals at the body integration stage. Those who hadn't reached the out-of-body stage couldn't enter the Supreme Immortal ranking. The innkeeper was on the verge of tears. He wanted to step out and say, "Fighting is not allowed in this inn." However, he was facing the dark horse of the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard, Chu Kuang. How could he dare to say anything? He was afraid that before he could even open his mouth, he would become a ghost under the other party's hands. "I'm a human, but you're not." Mu Yu raised the soul armament in his hand that contained the water spirit. Chu Kuang's face was already distorted. He roared and stomped on the ground, creating a big hole. His hands turned into claws and pounced towards Mu Yu. His speed was very fast, so fast that the onlookers couldn't react in time. By the time they saw Chu Kuang's figure clearly, his hand was only an inch away from Mu Yu's throat. Everyone secretly shook their heads, feeling sorry for Mu Yu. Mu Yu had paid the price for offending an extreme immortal who was devoid of humanity. Some people even closed their eyes or turned their heads away. They couldn't bear to see Mu Yu's throat being crushed. However, after waiting for a long time, they found that Chu Kuang's figure was still in the air. His hand didn't touch Mu Yu's throat. Time seemed to have stopped at that moment. Only a clear sound echoed in the inn. Drip! A drop of blood fell on the floor under Mu Yu's feet. The floor under Mu Yu's feet was intact, without any damage. Everyone looked towards the source of the blood. Suddenly, they were all stunned. Chu Kuang's heart had been pierced through by Mu Yu's soul armament at some point in time. Chu Kuang's eyes widened. He lowered his head in disbelief and looked at the bloody hole in his chest. He didn't understand how his chest was pierced through in just one move. However, he would never understand. The blue water spirit released a strange suction force, sucking something from his body. Chu Kuang's consciousness slowly dissipated. At the last moment, he only had time to let out an unwilling whimper. His body slowly stiffened, and his life force quickly flowed out of his body. Bang! Chu Kuang's body fell to the ground like a dead dog, making a loud crashing sound. This sound also knocked on everyone's heart, causing their eyelids to twitch. That was Chu Kuang, who was ranked 46th on the Supreme Immortal ranking. After arrogantly defeating many opponents, he was defeated by an unfamiliar man, just like that. Who was this person? A faint white light emerged from his body. Mu Yu's expression changed. The Shadow Clone Sword responded and temporarily removed the restriction. Mu Ling immediately swallowed the white light. Mu Yu wouldn't give the Triple Palace any chance to strengthen his soul power. Killing Chu Kuang in an instant was not worth mentioning to him. Previously, he had used the Lian Kong's soul armament to deal with Gue Shiren when he was at the Severed Soul stage. Now that he had stepped into the body integration stage, the power of his soul armament made his cultivation almost on par with those at the 9th celestial stage of the body integration stage. He felt that after stepping into the body integration stage, he could use his soul armament to fight against Gue Yiming when he was at the crossing calamity stage. Let's go. Mu Yu untied the water spirit from his soul armament. The water spirit was still as smooth as silk and wasn't stained with any blood. It just had an indescribable liveliness. Xiao Shui took the water spirit and left the inn with Mu Yu under everyone's shocked gazes. After that, the entire inn was in an uproar. Mu Yu had already used an illusion array before entering the city to hide his true appearance. Xiao Shui had grown up in the monster race and didn't show her face in the cultivation world. Therefore, no one in the inn recognized the two of them. At this moment, everyone was guessing the identity of the two people. Some people had already chased after them, but Mu Yu and Xiao Shui's figures gradually disappeared into the bustling crowd. It was as if they had evaporated into thin air in the blink of an eye. Outside the mist-breathed city, Mu Yu and Xiao Shui didn't fly. They walked slowly along the small path outside the city. That person just now, was he controlled by Xiangnan? Xiao Shui asked. Mu Yu nodded. Xiangnan used his ability to fuse the consciousness of a monster with a human. I think those dark horses on the Supreme Immortal rankings were all created by Xiangnan. However, these people are monsters that can't gain intelligence. Even if they fuse with a human, they still have the wild nature of a monster. Those creatures could not be counted as human beings at all. They did not care about family or master in their eyes. It was not easy for them to be human beings, not to mention that they were on the ranking list of supreme deities. They thought that they were superior to other cultivators and did not care about other cultivators at all. It was entirely possible for them to do something as insane as asking their master to be their servant. After all, the monster soul in Chu Kuang's body didn't recognize the Western Immortal Taoist as his master. I thought you wouldn't interfere with Xiangnan's plans. Xiao Shui recalled what Mu Yu had said before. Mu Yu shook his head. I won't interfere with his plans. However, the monster soul he controlled just now dared to flirt with the girl I like. I won't let him live. After a pause, Mu Yu continued. Xiangnan won't mind if I kill this monster soul. Xiao Shui's face suddenly turned red. She felt a sense of comfort in her heart. When Mu Yu said the words, the girl I like, her heart actually started beating nonstop. Sir, please wait. The Western Immortal Taoist's voice came from behind. Mu Yu stopped and looked at the panting Western Immortal Taoist. Western Immortal, thank you for getting rid of a vile disciple for me. I will never forget your kindness. Please accept my gratitude. The Western Immortal Taoist wanted to kneel down and express his gratitude, but Mu Yu didn't let him. You don't have to thank me. There were some things I had to do. Mu Yu shook his head. Xiangnan controlled those people so that they could fight against the Third Palace in the future. You shouldn't have let them be arrogant and despotic and destroy other people's lives. Sir, you don't know. What did that vile disciple do to us? Maybe it's just a small matter for you, but it's a grace of rebirth for our entire sect. The Western immortal Taoist actually shed turbid tears as he spoke. Excitement and resentment mixed together, causing his entire body to tremble. His aura also became chaotic, as if he had finally vented all the resentment he had accumulated for a long time. But because he was too happy, he couldn't straighten out his aura. You were treated like this by him. Why didn't you leave quietly? Xiao Shui walked over and patted the Western immortal Taoist's shoulder. A cold aura entered the Western immortal Taoist's body, causing his heart to gradually calm down. The Western immortal Taoist felt a trace of coldness in his body and was flattered. He quickly said, "Thank you, Fairy." "Fairy, you don't know, but if it weren't for protecting the others in my sect, I would have already killed myself. How could I have been humiliated like this? Sigh, it's all my fault as a master. Who would have thought that he would suddenly change his temperament? When he made us kneel, my little disciple stepped forward to protect him, but he actually broke his neck with a claw." The Western immortal Taoist was heartbroken. He still couldn't forget that scene. After Chu Kuang returned from Clearwater City, it was as if he had suddenly become a different person. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds, and he had even broken into the supreme immortal leaderboard. This was originally something worthy of celebration from the entire sect, but they didn't expect a nightmare to befall this sect. After Chu Kuang's cultivation surpassed the Western immortal Taoists, he began to be arrogant and look down on his fellow sect members. He would hurt them without saying a word. The Western immortal Taoist could only endure the humiliation for the sake of the lives of the entire sect. He agreed to be his disciple's servant so that he could secretly protect the others in the sect. Mui was silent for a long time. He knew why Chu Kuang didn't kill the Western immortal Taoist. The Western immortal Taoist was originally the leader of a sect, so he knew far more than Chu Kuang. He stayed behind to collect information for Chu Kuang and explain the situation of the cultivation world. After all, Chu Kuang was possessed by a demon soul. How could he know so much about the ways of the world? He could only rely on the Western immortal Taoist. Although he humiliated Chu Kuang, he didn't kill him. This was because Chu Kuang, as a demon soul, didn't have any brains. He only had brute force, but he still had the wild nature of a demon beast. Therefore, he wanted to be above everyone and order people around. Muyu sighed. He took out a few bottles of 5th-grade healing pills and handed them to the Western immortal Taoist. "Take these pills back and give them to your disciples. Take it as an apology." "Apology? Sir, you must be joking. You're our benefactor. Everyone in the sect is grateful for your kindness. How could we dare to covet your pills? Today, I chased after you only to thank you in person. I have nothing to repay you with, so please accept my bow," the Western immortal Taoist said sincerely. "There's no need for that. Many things aren't as simple as you think. Take these pills back. We still have matters to attend to, so we'll take our leave first." Muyu didn't want to accept the Western immortal Taoist's bow. This matter was caused by Xiang Nan, so he was only apologizing on Xiang Nan's behalf. However, he couldn't bring this matter to light. He could only apologize for Xiang Nan in some way. However, when he thought about it, there were thousands of people like Chu Kuang in the cultivation world. How many innocent victims like the Western immortal Taoist will be bullied and humiliated by people like Chu Kuang? Could Muyu really stand by and do nothing about what Xiang Nan had done? Muyu and Xiao Shui looked at the Western immortal Taoist with complicated feelings. They killed Chu Kuang whenever they encountered him, but what about the others? The two of them had just floated into the air when the Western immortal Taoist firmly bowed in Muyu's direction and kowtowed 3 times. Chapter 740. Have you heard? 7 days ago, Chu Kuang died in the hands of an unknown person. I heard about it too. That's not all. On the 3rd day, I heard that Dong Renhua was also defeated by a mysterious person. I heard that Shuda from the South Howl sect was also thrown down from the stargazing tower in the Heartless City yesterday. He was seriously injured. Bei Huaili, Nan Shuda, Dong Renhua, and Shi Chu Kuang. Chu Kuang is dead, and Shuda and Renhua were taught a lesson. It said that their personalities changed drastically after they returned. That leaves only Huaili from the North Nether sect. The four of them are renowned dark horses on the extreme immortal rankings. Just like Sikong Chiwen, they're from small sects and clans, but their strengths and cultivations aren't inferior to Sikong Chiwen in the past. However, their reputations are too great. Even though their strengths are great, their characters are terrible, so they deserve to be taught a lesson. It seems that there's another dark horse on the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board who can teach these four people a lesson. I just don't know where this dark horse will come from. In the past few days, the cultivation world had been abuzz with the news that the four heroes of a small sect had been taught a lesson. Many meddlesome cultivators were guessing the identity of the mysterious person. Who on earth had the strength to teach these four arrogant and domineering extreme immortals a lesson? However, the strange thing was that after three of the four heroes were defeated, there was no eye-catching name on the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board. Everyone immediately understood that a genius Supreme Immortal at the top of the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board must have disliked the four heroes, so he taught them a lesson. This was the only explanation for why no one replaced the three heroes after they were defeated. But at the same time, everyone's attention was focused because among the four heroes of the cultivation world, Huaili's strength had increased the fastest, and he was ranked 30th. If Huaili was taught a lesson again, then it meant that this person's ranking was at least within the top 30. The North Nether sect. The North Nether sect used to be a small sect, and its former leader, Taoist Wenyang, was only at the 5th heavenly layer of out-of-body realm. For the experts of the 3rd heaven of out-of-body realm, the 5th heavenly layer was nothing worth mentioning. However, ever since Taoist Wenyang's disciple, Huaili, returned from Clearwater City, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. In less than a year, he had actually advanced from the nascent soul stage to the body integration stage. This was a huge matter for the North Nether sect. Everyone in the sect thought that the North Nether sect would rise under Huaili's leadership. However, Huaili seemed to have turned into a different person all of a sudden. He became temperamental and arrogant, completely ignoring his elders. In the conference hall of the North Nether sect, Huaili sat loftily on the sect master's seat carved from gold and white jade, hugging a beautiful woman in his arms. That woman was like a sheep nestled on his lap. His eyes flashed with an uncontrollable beast light from time to time. Below him, there were more than 10 people kneeling. These people were the original elders of the North Nether sect. Even Huaili's master, Taoist Wenyang, was kneeling on the ground in fear, not daring to raise his head to look at his disciple. So, Chu Kuang is dead, and Renhua and Shu De are seriously injured? Huaili asked slowly. Reporting to the sect master, the information is accurate. Taoist Wenyang lowered his head to the ground. His voice was filled with panic, trying his best not to show any abnormality in his expression. However, Taoist Wenyang's heart was filled with excitement. He was looking forward to the mysterious swordsman standing up and teaching this disloyal and unfilial person a lesson. He wanted to get rid of his evil disciple and let the resentful souls of the disciples who died tragically in the sect rest in peace. You seem to be very happy about this news. Huaili pushed the beautiful woman away and slowly walked down, stopping beside Taoist Wenyang. You must be joking, sect master. Wenyang wouldn't dare to have any disloyalty towards you. Sect master, Taoist Wenyang said fearfully. Raise your head, Huaili said lightly. Taoist Wenyang raised his head while trembling, but he still didn't dare to look directly at his disciple. His disciple's cultivation base was at the form synthesis stage, which was far higher than his out-of-body stage master. It was something to be proud of, but at this time, he was extremely afraid. Huaili stretched out the tip of his foot, tipped Taoist Wenyang's chin, and sneered, Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. But you'd better give up. I'm not those 3 good-for-nothings. If he dares to come, I'll kill him. If you want to live, you'd better listen to me. Taoist Wenyang was terrified. He thought of Huai Li's current cultivation base and his current ranking. He was ranked 30th on the Supreme Immortal list. If it was in the past, Taoist Wenyang would have been extremely excited. The Supreme Immortal leaderboard represented the 99 most talented young talents in the cultivation world. It was truly amazing that such an outstanding disciple had emerged from a small, mediocre sect like his. However, Taoist Wenyang couldn't be excited now. After Huai Li had attained a cultivation base, he seemed to have changed into a different person. There was a faint ferocity of a wild beast in his body, and the relationship between master and disciple in the past had long been forgotten. I don't dare to offend you, sect master. Please investigate this matter, Taoist Wenyang said in a panic. He didn't know that his disciple was no longer the same person. Huai Li was indeed a ferocious beast. After a ferocious beast took over his consciousness, he had no feelings for his original family or sect at all. Even if you want to offend me, you don't have the ability to do so. I can trample you under my feet for the rest of my life. Huai Li laughed and kicked Taoist Wenyang over. Then he stepped on Taoist Wenyang's chest fiercely. The nature of a ferocious beast was fully revealed. Taoist Wenyang sighed in his heart. His ribs hurt, but he didn't dare to resist. He didn't have the ability to resist. A beast will always be a beast. You don't even know how to restrain your beastly nature after becoming a human. A calm voice resounded throughout the meeting hall. A figure slowly walked in from outside the hall. Everyone who was kneeling suddenly became excited. Could this strange voice be the mysterious person who came to punish the evil disciples of the various sects? Taoist Wenyang was also very excited. Tears flowed down from the corners of his eyes. That nameless young hero has finally come? God has finally opened his eyes. Huai Li looked coldly at the stranger in front of him. The aura of the 6th level of the combination realm suddenly spread out from his body. Are you that wild brat who wants to stand up for himself? Huai Li looked at Mu Yu with disdain. In fact, these demon souls had seen Mu Yu in the desert of Clearwater City. However, Mu Yu had changed his appearance, so Huai Li couldn't recognize him. I'm here to deal with the aftermath. Mu Yu shook his head slightly. Xiang Nan had so many demon souls under his control, and they were obedient to his command. But they still could not change their nature as ferocious beasts and bullied the cultivators. How different were the demon souls who did not treat the lives of the cultivators any different from the threefold palace? Aftermath? Ha ha ha. I think you're here to die. Huai Li stood up in anger and rushed towards Mu Yu. Demon beasts will always be demon beasts. They always like to be self-righteous. The soul weapon in Mu Yu's hand surged. An even more powerful aura instantly shrouded the entire conference hall of the North Nether sect. All the elders of the North Nether sect felt as if a storm was coming. They were shivering on the reef in the face of the rolling waves. They couldn't even stabilize their bodies and could be swallowed by the waves at any time. However, the waves receded very quickly. It was as if all the turbulent waves had calmed down in the blink of an eye. The dark clouds dispersed and the sun shone in. The sea was calm again. Huai Li was lying motionless on the ground like a dead dog. All of you get up, Mu Yu said amiably. Only then did Taoist Wenyang react. He got up from the ground and looked at Huai Li, who was lying beside Mu Yu, with a bewildered look on his face. You're the nameless young hero who punishes evil. Taoist Wenyang asked respectfully. He was also shocked. Huai Li was a Supreme Immortal ranked 30th on the Supreme Immortal leaderboard. However, he couldn't even withstand one move from this strange man in front of him. Which sect did this Supreme Immortal come from? Nameless young hero? Is that how outsiders address me? Mu Yu smiled. He didn't care about these empty titles. My lord, Huai Li. Taoist Wenyang's eyes were still wandering because Huai Li, who was lying beside Mu Yu's feet, was still alive. As long as this evil disciple was alive, their sect would never have peace. If they didn't kill this evil disciple now, they would be the ones to die when he woke up. He's not dead. I won't kill him, Mu Yu said. Taoist Wenyang's expression was uncertain. He said earnestly, My lord, if you don't kill him, then in the future, Before he could finish his words, Huai Li's hand suddenly moved. Then, he slowly got up from the ground. Huai Li didn't seem to be injured at all. He patted his clothes as if nothing had happened and glanced at everyone. Taoist Wen Yang and the other elders' expressions suddenly changed. Their hearts were in their throats again. Huai Li was still alive. At this moment, Huai Li's gaze also fell on Taoist Wen Yang. He actually walked straight towards Taoist Wen Yang. Taoist Wen Yang hurriedly lowered his head, thinking that Huai Li would come over to take revenge on him. Thinking of his disciple's ferocity, he panicked and wanted to kneel down in front of his disciple. However, at this moment, Huai Li suddenly bent his legs and knelt in front of Taoist Wen Yang. Huai Li greets Master. Master, if you need anything, please tell me. Huai Li kowtowed heavily to Taoist Wen Yang. What? Taoist Wen Yang's mind went blank. The disciple who had just stepped on him was now kneeling in front of him? What was going on? The other elders were also stunned. They looked in disbelief at the devil who had done all kinds of evil in the past year. They couldn't understand how this unfilial disciple had changed his personality. Master, he. Taoist Wen Yang still couldn't believe it. He rubbed his eyes hard. After confirming that the person kneeling in front of him was his crazy disciple, he still couldn't accept this fact. Those who have been to Qingshui City have all been cast a mysterious spell by Sikong Chiwen. Their personality will change drastically. I'm just using a more powerful spell to return him back to normal. However, that spell has caused him to lose his self-awareness. Now, he's like a walking corpse. He will listen to any of your orders in the future and won't disobey. Don't worry. Muyu explained patiently. He'll listen to my orders? Taoist Wen Yang was stunned. As the sect leader, he was only in the out-of-body stage. Normally, they would have to submit to Huai Li's powerful strength. They didn't dare to disobey Huai Li's orders. Who would have thought that there would be a day where they could control Huai Li? Chapter 741. You can order him to do anything you want. You can also let him continue to cultivate and reach a higher cultivation level to defeat other supreme immortals. He will listen to you. You can use him to help your sect rise. He is now equivalent to a puppet. Muyu walked out of the hall as soon as he finished speaking. A perfect soul formation was the most suitable solution you could think of. He did not want to interfere with Xiangnan's plan because Xiangnan's matter had already been settled and could not be changed. Dark horses like the 4 heroes of the cultivation world were still useful. If they could occupy a place on the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board, it would have a great impact on the Threefold Palaces plan. As for Chu Kuang's death, it was only because he took liberties with Qiao Shui. Sir, please wait, sir. Taoist Wen Yang finally reacted. He wanted to ask Muyu to stay to express his gratitude, but Muyu had already disappeared. Taoist Wen Yang looked at Huai Li, who was kneeling on the ground in fear. He recalled how he had been humiliated by his disciple and mustered up his courage to shout, "Unfilial disciple, you deserve this. Go and kowtow to all the elders and admit your mistakes." "Yes, master." Huai Li stood up expressionlessly and really kowtowed to every elder that he had insulted in the past to admit his wrongs. Moreover, he was quite sincere as he kowtowed loudly. It's true, Taoist Wen Yang was overwhelmed with emotions. He finally believed Muyu's words. A flying sword appeared in his hand, and he placed it against Huai Li's neck. He wanted to kill his disciple with his own hands, but he hesitated. It was not easy for a sect to have a supreme immortal in the form synthesis stage. Moreover, he was a genius ranked 30th on the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board. It would be a pity to kill him. Back then, when I named you Huai Li, I hoped that you would treat others with respect, but you walked on the opposite path. You can atone for your sins by becoming a puppet in the future. Just think of it as your contribution to the rise of the sect. Taoist Wen Yang, whose cultivation level was only at the 5th heavenly stage of the out-of-body stage, said quietly. Qiao Shui and Muyu sat cross-legged on a hillside. The sky was filled with stars, and the night breeze was blowing gently. Originally, I wanted to kill them to collect the power of slaughter for you. However, although they have done many evil things, they are not completely useless. I'll talk to the silhouette being and the gate of hell. Muyu said while grilling the leg of Fiery Pig. He was now ranked 30th on the Extreme Immortal leaderboard. However, he did not allow Huai Li's Extreme Immortal mark to attach to his arm. As for his original Extreme Immortal mark, it had long since disappeared, so he could not exchange it with Huai Li. The outside world still did not know what had happened. Take it slow. I'm not in a hurry to kill. Xiao Shui was the same as Muyu. She rejected that feeling. They had been in the cultivation world for almost a month now. During this time, Muyu had been searching for the famous dark horses on the Supreme Immortal leaderboard. Xiang Nan had created too many demons and occupied almost half of the Supreme Immortal leaderboard. As for how to differentiate between a demon and not a demon, it was actually very simple. Most of these people who had the consciousness of a demon soul were violent. They looked down on cultivators who were weaker than them and bullied the people around them. The big sects were still fine. At least they had more powerful people above them, so they did not dare to be too presumptuous. However, the cultivators from small sects were very miserable. The excitement of the dark horses had not died down yet, but the cultivators from the small sects were already complaining incessantly. It's a pity that these people don't know where Xiangnan is. Otherwise, I would go and find out where Xiangnan is. Muyu had always wanted to find Xiangnan. He wanted to know if Xiangnan was still safe and whether he was threatened by Tu Yameng. However, according to the demons, Xiangnan had not contacted them since he had taken control of them. Because of this, the demons had become unscrupulous. Sikong Chuan was not as arrogant in the past because Xiangnan had been controlling Sikong Chuan, so Sikong Chuan did not dare to do anything that crossed the line. How long can your soul formation control them? If you meet Xiangnan in the future, will you have a better control over them or Xiangnan? Xiao Shui knew that Muyu had used the soul formation to control Xiangnan's puppets, but they were also under Xiangnan's control. Therefore, if they met in the future, they would have to face this problem. Muyu shook his head. Xiangnan has a better control over them than me. This is inevitable. They have the consciousness of a demon soul in them. I can't erase it. I can only change their memories and turn them into walking corpses. However, Xiangnan has the ability to wake them up. Xiangnan controls them but doesn't care about them. If he doesn't make them behave, they will attract the attention of the Threefold Palace sooner or later. Won't the Threefold Palace easily figure out Xiangnan's plan? Xiao Shui was disgusted by the demon's actions, but she was puzzled by Xiangnan's actions. Muyu sank into deep thought. He still couldn't see through Xiangnan. At first, he thought that Xiangnan was just a simple and honest senior brother who stood aloof from worldly affairs. However, Muyu later realized that Xiangnan had hidden himself too well. He had fooled everyone. Xiangnan controlled almost 100,000 self-cultivators back then. Almost all the major sects had people under his control. However, not all demons are as arrogant and domineering as these people. There are many demons who aren't even on the Supreme Immortal leaderboard. I think Xiangnan might be planning something else. He must have thought of this problem. Muyu couldn't figure out what Xiangnan was doing, but he couldn't just stand by and watch these demons run amok. He would help as many as he could so that the self-cultivators of the smaller sects wouldn't have to live such miserable lives. The night gradually deepened. The two of them prepared to leave for the Azure Dragon Dynasty tomorrow. The purpose of going to the Azure Dragon Dynasty was very clear. It was to let the Dragon Vine learn the correct cultivation method. It was also to see if the Demon Kings could help them rescue Jian Ying and Chun Feng. At the same time, Muyu wanted to know how the Demon Kings planned to deal with the Heavenly Enforcers. Early the next morning, Muyu and Xiao Shui set off. They flew west for 2 days. Even with their cultivation, they still needed to fly for 2 days. It was obvious how far this place was. According to Xiao Shui, ever since the demons lost to the humans 5,000 years ago, they had migrated to a remote area in the west. It was a desolate swamp with many poisonous insects and ferocious beasts roaming about. Even severed soul stage self-cultivators didn't dare to casually set foot there. The swamp was overgrown with shrubs and muddy water bubbled. There was also some yellow miasma floating above. If one flew directly into it, they would be poisoned. Ferocious cries of demon beasts could be heard in the distance. Among the plants in the swamp, there were many corpses of demon beasts that had died not long ago. Muyu didn't panic at the swamp at all. He was like a fish in water wherever there were plants. However, Xiao Shui told him that if he didn't follow a certain path, he wouldn't be able to see the Azure Dragon Dynasty, even if he flew all over the swamp. The Azure Dragon Dynasty and the Sea Fiend King's Island are the same to a certain extent. You won't be able to find it if you fly over. You have to follow a certain path. Just follow me. Xiao Shui jumped onto a reed in the swamp and called for Mu Yu to follow. The demons protected their territory very tightly. If one wanted to go to the demon territory, they had to follow the path they had set up. When they went to the Sea Fiend King's Island, they went through many twists and turns. Fortunately, they had Xiao Shui to guide them this time. Thus, Mu Yu didn't have to worry about getting lost. What is your Azure Dragon Dynasty like? Do you live in caves? Mu Yu asked curiously. Not exactly, but you'll understand. Xiao Shui led the way in front. Her path was very winding. Moreover, she was following a certain path. There were many paths, including a certain stone, a certain tree branch, a certain leaf. They were quite strange and didn't have any pattern. These things don't look very eye-catching. They can be found everywhere in the swamp, but they have a special aura that only the devil race can recognize. I mainly rely on the water they leave behind, Xiao Shui explained. Although Mu Yu had no sense of direction, he wouldn't forget a path as long as he walked it once. Xiao Shui used water droplets to mark the paths. As for Mu Yu, he memorized the plants and leaves beside the paths. The plants he stepped on were different. The path forward was very winding. They also encountered many powerful demon beasts. However, after seeing Xiao Shui, these demon beasts only roared a few words symbolically before disappearing into the swamp. According to Xiao Shui, these demon beasts were responsible for guarding the outer path. There were even some powerful 7th-ranked demon beasts in the swamp. Whether one can become a demon beast or not depends on one's aptitude. Not all powerful demon beasts can awaken intelligence. However, although those demon beasts don't have intelligence, they are still very powerful. Demon beasts with insufficient cultivation don't dare to casually provoke them. Xiao Shui stepped on a rock and politely greeted a 7th-order demonic beast that was glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey. It was a saber-toothed 7-star tiger. Its fangs were 2 meters long, and its aura was very powerful. It didn't appear because of Xiao Shui, but because of Mu Yu, an unfamiliar outsider. After Xiao Shui explained to it, the saber-toothed 7-star tiger retreated. How much longer until we reach? Mu Yu and the others have been walking in the swamp for nearly a day. The sky was already dark and the surroundings were pitch black. They could only rely on the light emitted by Xiao Shui's water spirit to barely see the surrounding 4 to 5 meters. We should be able to reach it by dawn. Our Azure Dragon Dynasty is truly a desolate place. Xiao Shui stopped and turned her head to ask, "How about we rest for a while?" "All right, let's rest. I'm so tired." Little Shui nodded. "Tired your head? I've been the one walking the whole way. What are you tired of?" Mu Yu unhappily flicked Little Shui's head. "Let's rest for half an hour in front. In any case, there's a huge crack in front of us. Grandpa Azure Dragon has set up some kind of formation under the crack. It has a powerful suction force, and we can't cross or fly over it. However, there's a bridge that will appear every 4 hours. We could just walk over it." Xiao Shui walked forward for half an hour and stopped under a tree. The moonlight couldn't shine into the swamp. With the help of the water spirit's brilliance, Mu Yu could clearly see the so-called crack in front of them. The crack was about 10 meters wide and was unknown how long it was. "This crack is very similar to Chaotic Burial Valley," Mu Yu said thoughtfully. "I'm not sure. Grandpa Azure Dragon usually warns us not to fall in, and no one dares to disobey. It's said that the crack spans the entire swamp. However, after passing through this crack, we'll truly enter the Azure Dragon Dynasty. This crack can be considered our Azure Dragon Dynasty's outer defense line. Several bridges will appear every 4 hours, and the bridges will only appear for 15 minutes. It's neither long nor short. Xiao Shui explained. What kind of person is the Azure Dragon Monster King? Is he easy to talk to? Muyu thought of the monster kings he came in contact with. Every monster king had a different personality. For example, the White 8 Monster King was very carefree and frivolous. His skin was as thick as a wall. The Sand Eagle Monster King was very cold. Even though he was controlled by Xiongnan, he hid his emotions very well. In comparison, the Sea Demon King was more like a refined scholar. He spoke in a refined and polite manner. He was also easier to talk to. Xiao Shui thought for a while and explained, Grandpa Azure Dragon? How should I put it? He's very good to me. However, he's a very arrogant person with a very straightforward temper. Let me put it this way. He didn't even show much affection for the 9th level bloodline, Long Xingyun. On the contrary, he's more interested in those monster clansmen who don't have true dragon bloodline, but have strong cultivations. Just like me, I look down on mixed blood dragons the most. However, he doesn't care about other monster clansmen. At least they don't pretend to be dragons. Long Tongue interrupted. Don't flatter yourself. You're no different from an earthworm now. Little Handsome mocked. Do you want to die? Long Tongue was furious. Muyu nodded thoughtfully. That means he's quite sensible. You can say that. However, the Azure Dragon Dynasty's affairs aren't handled by Grandpa Azure Dragon. Instead, it's the 4 dragon clans. I told you last time that the 4 dragon clans are the Northern Abyss Jade Flood Dragon, Hidden Forest Black Tiger Dragon, Purple Lightning Flying Dragon, and Devil Spirit Dragon Python. Long Xingyun belongs to the Devil Spirit Dragon Python's faction. Muyu remembered that Long Xingyun's original form was a dragon python. Long Xingyun is the son of the Northern Abyss Jade Flood Dragon King. His mother belongs to the Devil Spirit Dragon Python's faction. Therefore, the 2 factions are united. The Hidden Forest Black Tiger Dragon and Purple Lightning Flying Dragon each have their own factions. The rest are the monster clansmen who don't have true dragon bloodline. In the end, strength is the most important. If you're strong enough, you'll be roped in by the 4 dragon clans, even if you don't have true dragon bloodline. Then which faction do you belong to? Muyu asked curiously. To be honest, Xiao Shui, as a human with Yu Meng's ability, was able to live in a monster clan for so many years and live in harmony with the monster clansmen. Me? Of course, I belong to the liberal faction. The liberal faction refers to the monster clansmen who don't have true dragon bloodline. Although we're weaker than the other 4 dragon clans, we don't need to compete with others. After all, the throne of the Azure Dragon Dynasty won't fall into our hands. We don't need to scheme against each other all the time. Everyone just needs to be themselves. Xiao Shui said. Muyu shrugged. Xiao Shui's words made sense. Voila! Chapter 742. Muyu immediately became vigilant, thinking that it was another demonic beast looking for trouble. However, Xiao Shui stood up nonchalantly and said, Let's go. The bridge has already appeared. The bottom of the chasm was like the gaping maw of a gigantic beast in the abyss, and there was no way to know what was down there. Muyu wasn't afraid. In any case, he had already ventured into countless dragons' lair and tigers' den, so there was nothing to be afraid of in this strange abyss. The bridge above the chasm was invisible, but Xiao Shui knew the exact location of the transparent bridge. She had Muyu follow behind her so that they wouldn't have to worry about tripping. After stepping onto the transparent bridge, Muyu could clearly feel a powerful suction force coming from the bottom of the bridge, as if it was going to drag them into the abyss. Even with Muyu's body integration stage cultivation base, he was unable to withstand such a powerful suction force. The bridge is very narrow, and it can only accommodate 2 people standing side by side. Don't stray. Xiao Shui grabbed Muyu's hand, worried that something would happen to Muyu. What's there to be afraid of? You don't want me to fall. Muyu chuckled. Xiao Shui pinched Muyu and chided, You're so talkative. It was only a distance of 10 meters, and they quickly crossed the bridge. However, the other end of the bridge wasn't a swamp this time, but a surging river. Because it was nighttime, there was only a faint moonlight, and no one knew where the pitch-black river flowed. This river flows into the abyss just now. Xiao Shui stepped on the surface of the river with Mu Yu and headed towards the misty night. Huh? Shouldn't there be a waterfall there? I didn't even hear the sound of a waterfall. Mu Yu sat on the surface of the water, and the flowing water formed a bench beneath them. With Xiao Shui around, they didn't need to worry about the river at all. I don't know. I secretly went down once before, but I didn't reach the bottom even after 2 hours. Then I was blocked by a barrier. I don't know where the river flows to. Xiao Shui led Mu Yu forward very quickly. To Xiao Shui, the water route was much faster than the air route. Even so, they still walked for several hours. In the end, the sky was already bright, but they still hadn't reached the shore. Why is this river so wide? Where are the two shores? Mu Yu looked around, but he couldn't see where the riverbank was. He only knew that they were going against the current, and the water was splashing below, but it couldn't splash them. This river is called the Heavenly Monster River. The width of the river is the same as the width of the crack, so it should span the entire swamp. Xiao Shui was already familiar with the path, so she was not surprised. However, after walking for another 2 hours, they finally saw land in front of them. The Heaven Demon River gathered from all the gaps in the land. Xiao Shui walked to the shore and entered a forest. Many demon beasts could be seen in this forest, and they were all high-level demon beasts. Many demon beasts ran towards Xiao Shui and intimately rubbed against her. Xiao Shui patted their heads. She got along very well with these demon beasts. At this moment, 2 Funshan-stage demon beasts suddenly jumped out of the forest. One of them still had a mantis arm, which looked very strange. Xiao Shui, it's you. One of the demon beasts had 2 antennae on his head, which looked like the antennae of an ant. His head was a little small, and he looked a little silly. Then, Mu Yu knew what the demon beast's true form was. It was the cerebellum giant ant. It was a kind of demon beast that was born slow but had boundless strength. Back when he was in the Erase sect, Mu Yu tried his best to command the cerebellum giant ant to fight. Little flower ant and mantis brother, is it your turn to be on duty today? Xiao Shui greeted. Yes. You. Why did you bring back a human? Little flower ant looked at Mu Yu vigilantly. She was very wary of humans. According to Xiao Shui, there was no other human in the Azure Dragon Dynasty other than her. Don't panic. He is a guest invited by Lord Sea Demon King. Lord Sea Demon King should be back, right? Xiao Shui asked. Lord Sea Demon King is indeed back. He did say that a human would come here. It seems like it is you. Then you two can go in. Little flower ant and mantis didn't make things difficult for Mu Yu. They nodded at Mu Yu and let him go. Not long after Xiao Shui and Mu Yu left, Mantis suddenly whispered to Little Flower Ant. Lord Abyss Jade Dragon said that if a human comes here, we have to report to him. You wait here. I will be back soon. I am afraid it is because of Long Xingyun. This time, Lord Abyss Jade Dragon is very angry. Little Flower Ant shook her head. Xiao Shui and Mu Yu didn't know what the 2 people behind them were talking about. They had already entered the depths of the forest. After walking for a while, they came face to face with an arch made of vines. Xiao Shui smiled and said, Welcome to the Azure Dragon Dynasty. After saying that, she took the lead and went through the arch, disappearing behind it. Mu Yu followed closely behind. After going through the arch, he finally saw the true face of the Azure Dragon Dynasty. What entered his eyes was a steep and wide valley. It was about 100 meters wide. The valley was very long and narrow, and it led to the distance. In the middle of the valley was a road made of stone. There were some curved stairs on both sides of the road that led to the cliff of the valley. The valley was at least 400 to 500 meters high. The most peculiar thing was the cliff of the valley. There were all kinds of wooden houses that extended from the cliff. They were just hanging in the air. If one counted carefully, there were at least 1,000 houses. These houses were arranged at different heights. They were crisscrossing, making good use of every space. There were wooden balconies and railings around each house. At the same time, there were stairs that zigzagged between the houses of different heights. One could use these stairs to walk to the ground between the valleys. Do you devil race people live in the air? Muyu couldn't help but marvel at the uncanny workmanship of the buildings. All the houses were built in the air above the cliff. They were staggered from each other, allowing the sun to shine on each house. This is only the tip of the iceberg of the Azure Dragon dynasty. We can't casually fly to the roofs here. We have to take the stairs, otherwise it would be impolite. However, we can fly on the main road in the valley. Xiao Shui said as she flew in the air. Muyu looked at the bustling devil race people on the main road. There were many people shouting loudly, as if they were buying and selling something. There were all kinds of signs outside the low-rise houses. There were tea stalls, restaurants, inns, everything that one could think of. When Muyu arrived here, he felt as if he had arrived at a paradise. Moreover, after the devil race people turned into humans, they were no different from humans. Therefore, Muyu didn't realize that this was the Azure Dragon dynasty. Ever since the devil race people were forced to move here, they have been learning the living habits of humans. Therefore, this place is actually no different from a human city. Xiao Shui explained. When Muyu flew past, he clearly heard one of the demon clansmen shouting in a low, muffled voice, "Barbarian bull tendons and bones, 10 spirit stones for sale. Don't miss it. The devil race people are devil beasts. What do they eat daily?" Muyu curiously asked. For the human race, there were many flavors to choose from. Any kind of demon beast could be caught and cooked once or twice. From head to toe, they could be made into a delicacy. However, the demon race was transformed from demon beasts. What was their food? The devil race people's diet is very rich. First of all, there are ordinary animals without spirit energy. There are chickens, ducks, geese, and even cows. Many devil beasts are classified as having no possibility of awakening their intelligence. Therefore, these devil beasts will also become food for everyone. However, if there is a devil beast that can awaken its intelligence, then it will be listed as a devil beast that is forbidden to be eaten. They flew past the noisy devil race people below. 2 devil race people seemed to be quarreling because of something. This had nothing to do with them, so they didn't stop. Xiao Shui continued. For example, I remember that there used to be a kind of delicious rock sparrow. It was a common dish on the table. Rock sparrows are ordinary animals without spirit energy. However, one of them unintentionally awakened its intelligence and cultivated into a devil race person. Therefore, rock sparrows are now listed as forbidden to be eaten. However, that was 7 or 8 years ago. Later, it seems that the rock sparrow devil race person's body was too weak and didn't live for more than 10 years. In recent years, many devil race people have been calling for rock sparrows to be listed as edible devil beasts again. However, some departments above have not approved it. Muyu felt that the devil race was really a mysterious existence. They could even play like this. That rock sparrow devil race person had prevented their race from becoming food on the table. It was interesting. If it was me, I would just grab one and roast it. Why would I care so much? Xiao Shui usually wanted to roast any devil beast. You can do that in the outside world, but don't do that here. Many devil beasts have awakened their intelligence before. Once they're discovered, they will be severely punished. It is possible that they will be locked up for a few years. What do you want to eat? Don't go hunting in the forest. Go to a restaurant. Spirit stones can be used here. Xiao Shui said seriously. It's fine, little mouse. If anything happens, I will protect you. Long Tongue said indifferently. Xiao Shui dissuaded. The devil race also has their own social system. All kinds of rules have to be followed. Even Grandpa, Azure Dragon, sets an example. Long Tongue, don't cause trouble. Didn't that Long Xingyan always want to kill me? Then can I only eat dragon pythons? Long Tongue snorted. He wants to kill you because of his personal grudge. Killing each other is also forbidden here. However, there is usually a life and death stage here. Some devil race people are natural enemies. It is inevitable that there will be conflicts. If there are grudges that will not end until one of them is dead, they are allowed to settle it at the life and death stage. Xiao Shui said. They passed by a floating circular building that spanned across the entire valley. At this time, there was no one there. However, the ground above was stained with blood. According to Xiao Shui, this was the life and death stage. but fighting on the streets doesn't seem to be prohibited. Muyu lowered his head and saw two devil race people fighting angrily on the street. Spirit energy was sweeping around, and there was a group of people shouting. "The city guards will come to mediate," Xiao Shui said. Sure enough, two spirit-severing staged devil race people flew over. They were dressed in blue robes and pulled the two people apart. The society of the devil race is similar to that of the human race. However, there are many differences. After all, the devil race people came from devil race. They have the ferocity of devil race people and natural enemies. It is very easy for conflicts to occur. The reason why killing each other is forbidden is because the devil race people are very few. If they continue killing, they will really become extinct. This road is only the entrance. The population of the devil race is not large, but it has developed to over 10 million people. The valley is only a small part of it. There are also some living in the forest and the river. As for that place, it is the palace. Ordinary devil race people are not allowed to casually enter the palace. That is Grandpa Azure Dragon's residence. Xiao Shui and the others had already avoided the devil race, people flying around in the sky. They left the valley and arrived at a vast forest. Chapter 743. Aya, isn't that me? Who engraved me on it? Dragon Vine exclaimed in surprise. How shameless can you be? That's the statue of the Demon King. Little Commander scolded. But look, whether it's the head or the hands, they're exactly the same as me. Dragon Vine gestured with his body, then floated in front of Mu Yu and imitated the actions of the majestic statue. He raised his head, spread his claws, stuck out his tail, fluttered his dragon whiskers, and roared towards the sky. Needless to say, it was indeed 90% similar. Fine, it's you. Mu Yu shook his head helplessly. There were only two dragons in the world, and no matter how they were carved, they were exactly the same. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they looked like Dragon Vine. Flying is not allowed in this city. We need to report to Grandpa Azure Dragon and see if he wants to see you. Xiao Shui flew down with Mu Yu. If he doesn't want to see me, then what am I doing here? Mu Yu yawned. Grandpa Azure Dragon doesn't like to be disturbed when he's sleeping. No matter who it is, he has to report it. Therefore, if he wants to see you, he'll wait until he's free. Xiao Shui had already landed on the ground with Mu Yu. So arrogant. I'll be like this in the future too. Dragon Vine muttered. They walked towards the city gate. There were many demon clansmen coming and going at the gate. This city was the core of the Azure Dragon dynasty, so it was naturally very prosperous. At this moment, there were more than 20 demon clansmen patrolling the gate. When Mu Yu walked over, many of them stared at him. Clearly, they had smelled the scent of a human. It was fine that Xiao Shui was a human because she had a good relationship with the Demon King. After all, everyone knew her. However, it was different for Mu Yu, who was beside Xiao Shui. A human actually sneaked in. Capture him. At this moment, one of the city guards shouted. Then, all the city guards raised their spears and blocked Mu Yu's path. Big Brother Guard, this person came with me, and he's also a guest invited by the Sea Demon King. Please make an exception. Xiao Shui hurriedly walked forward and explained. The leader of the guards was a guy with long hair all over his body. He looked like a big bear, but his cultivation was at the second heavenly layer of the body integration stage. At the foot of the capital, the guards were all very strong. The weakest one was at the 9th level of the spirit severing stage. Xiao Shui, this is Monarch City. Patriarch Azure Dragon said that no human is allowed to enter Monarch City. The guard captain looked at Mu Yu arrogantly. I'm also a human. Xiao Shui frowned. Xiao Shui, we all know you. You are a member of our demon race, but he is not. This is our duty. Don't make it difficult for me. The guard's tone was very firm. But why don't I remember Grandpa Azure Dragon saying that? Are you faking Grandpa Azure Dragon's order? Xiao Shui said calmly. It was impossible for the Azure Dragon Monster King to issue such an unnecessary order. This was because no human cultivator had been able to come here for thousands of years. Not to mention other things, if they didn't have the guidance of the demon race, they wouldn't have been able to cross the swamp and abyss. A trace of imperceptible guilt flashed across the guard captain's face. Faking an order from the Azure Dragon Monster King was a serious crime. He hurriedly said, "Xiao Shui, I'm just thinking about the safety of Monarch City. If something happens, I can't bear the responsibility." "Then how are you going to let him in?" Xiao Shui asked in a deep voice. "It's very simple. You said that he's a guest invited by the Sea Demon King Yujiang. Then please go in and get a pass from the Yujiang ancestor. Otherwise, we won't let him in." The guard captain's eyes flashed with a strange light. Muyu captured the strange look in the guard captain's eyes, but he didn't say anything. "Damn it, I can't take it anymore. I'll go out and roar. This guy's also a mixed-blood dragon." Long Tongue was furious. "Don't be anxious. I'm afraid the matter isn't that simple. Let me handle it." Muyu didn't want Long Tongue to appear in public. After all, Long Tongue's identity was very important. Xiao Shui said that the 4 great dragon races coveted the true dragon bloodline. He had to carefully protect Long Tongue's safety. Most importantly, he still didn't know what kind of person the Azure Dragon Monster King was and what kind of attitude he had towards Long Tongue. All the rumors were said by Xiao Shui and the other Monster Kings. The Azure Dragon Monster King had lived for so many years. How could he be so easily seen through? Xiao Shui continued to negotiate with the guard captain, but the guard captain's attitude was very firm. He wanted to stop Muyu. The Sea Demon King was saved by Muyu. Xiao Shui raised her voice and emphasized, "I don't care. This is the Azure Dragon Dynasty, not the Sea Demon Dynasty." The guard captain's attitude was very firm. Xiao Shui was a bit angry, but she couldn't do anything. She turned to Muyu and said, "Muyu, wait for me here. I'll go in and find Grandpa Azure Dragon." "Go." Muyu nodded and said. Xiao Shui unhappily glared at the guard captain. In the end, she walked towards the royal city in large strides. As for the guard captain, he still surrounded Muyu. More and more monster race people came to watch. They looked at Muyu with unkind eyes. After all, the monster race and the human race had deep conflicts. Muyu didn't care. He found a rock and sat down. "Human race brat, did I say you could sit down? Stand up." The guard captain shouted. Muyu indifferently raised his head and looked at him. "You're not even letting me sit." Xiao Shui was here just now, so I didn't want to say anything. But in front of us monster race people, a lowly human like you is nothing. In our territory, you'll do whatever I tell you to do." The guard captain said overbearingly. "Oh." Muyu sat there without moving. "Did you hear what I said? Stand up." Seeing Muyu's attitude, the guard captain's face darkened. Muyu looked at the guard captain as if he was looking at an idiot. The guard captain flew into a rage out of humiliation and shouted. "I said, stand up." The captain of the guards had already reached out his huge bare paw to grab Muyu. But the paw didn't land. Muyu's hand quickly grabbed the guard captain's wrist. "I don't want to cause trouble, but I don't like people provoking me either," Muyu said coldly. The guard captain sneered. "Who do you think you are?" He increased the strength in his hand and wanted to grab Muyu again. But suddenly, a rune appeared on Muyu's hand and merged into the guard captain's hand. Soon, the guard captain opened his eyes wide and said, "Don't make things difficult for him. Everyone, return to your posts." All the guards looked at the guard captain in confusion. Weren't they just waiting to teach Muyu a lesson? But why did the guard captain's temperament suddenly change? The guards looked at each other. They still had to accept the guard captain's orders. So, they obediently returned to their posts and didn't say anything else. "Muyu, are we just going to endure it? I still want to teach him a lesson." Long Tongue asked in confusion. He was just ordered by someone to force me to take action. He wanted to take the opportunity to punish me for assaulting a guard. By taking action, I fulfilled someone's wish. The divine soul formation in Muyu's hand was still emitting radiance. Where does City's guard captain get the confidence to block the Sea Demon King's guest? If he didn't have a demon clansman's backing, how could he dare to ask Xiao Shui to get the pass from the Sea Demon King? He didn't even need to think to know who was deliberately looking for trouble with Muyu. What are you afraid of? When the time comes, I will back you up. In any case, I'm a true dragon. What can they do to us? Long Tongue said in disdain. They won't do anything to you, but they will deal with me. You don't have any backing in the demon clan. We still haven't seen the Azure Dragon Demon King, and many people are coveting you. If they forcefully find a tribulation-passing stage demon clansman to capture me and separate us, how long do you think you can live? Muyu said. Longting opened his mouth, but couldn't refute. If they were really separated, then Long Tongue's true dragon bloodline would be taken away by someone before he could see the Azure Dragon Demon King. Muyu swept his gaze over the crowd. At this moment, the demon clansmen started to disperse. However, there was still a portion of them who wanted to join in the fun and stared at him maliciously. In the crowd, a young man with a yellowish complexion who seemed to be in his 30s snorted heavily. What's going on? What is this Xiongzhong doing? Didn't we say that we would capture this guy? Two people who seemed to be his followers beside him said in a low voice, Young Master Jiao, should we make a move now? The higher-ups have given the order. His eyes flickered as he cursed in his mind. Trash, you can't even do this. Looks like I have to do it myself. The young man with a yellowish complexion snorted coldly and slowly walked to Muyu. He said disdainfully, Filthy human, you're in my way. Muyu pretended not to see anything. Humans are such a disgusting race. Such a lowly race. I feel disgusted even when they lick my feet, the young man with a yellowish complexion said. When this young man appeared in front of Muyu, the demon clansman also recognized him. Huh, isn't this the Jiao Dragon of the North Shore Abyss, Jiao Xinhua? He's famous for being arrogant and domineering. He acts arrogantly just because his father is Lord Yu Jiao's confidant. This is going to be a good show. I don't like humans either. Let him teach that guy a lesson. The surrounding demon clansmen began to whisper. Little Shuai, do you like to eat eels? Muyu asked. Little Shuai, who was on Muyu's shoulder, asked curiously, Are eels a type of fish raised in latrines? No, they're raised in latrines. It said that they're mixed-blood dragons born from eels and Jiao dragons. Muyu said, Brat, you're courting death. Jiao Xinhua shouted angrily. Why aren't you staying in the latrine? Why are you shouting at me? Muyu looked at Jiao Xinhua with a faint smile. This guy came from the North Shore Abyss, Long Xingyun's family. It was obvious what he was here for. A lackey was here to cause trouble. Brat, I'll teach you how to behave in the demon clansman today. A sharp dagger appeared in Jiao Xinhua's hand. I thought that you can't casually fight in the Azure Dragon Dynasty. Muyu said, The rules are set for the demon clansman. There's no need to care so much when dealing with humans. Jiao Xinhua's dagger flashed with a cold light. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stabbed towards Muyu. This guy was arrogant, but he was at the first level of the unification stage. So that's how it is. Why didn't you say that there was such a rule earlier? Muyu smiled, and with a turn of his body, he appeared behind Xinhua Jiao. Jiao Xinhua was shocked. Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain coming from his knee. Then he fell forward. Jiao Xinhua's leg was twisted to the side. He turned around and howled in pain. Just as he was about to say something threatening, Muyu kicked his chin and sent him flying. Jiao Xinhua was sent flying like a sandbag, crashing into the city wall in the distance. The city wall was inscribed with runes and was incomparably sturdy. All the force rebounded on Jiao Xinhua's body. This time, he didn't even have time to scream before he lost consciousness. All the demon clansmen were stunned. Jiao Xinhua was at the unification stage. He wanted to teach Muyu a lesson, but who would have thought that he would be kicked like a dead dog? He actually dared to hit our demon clansman. Quickly capture him. This is too much. How dare he behave so atrociously in the territory of the human clan? Kill him. Some of the demon clansmen began to shout. At the same time, they ran towards Jiao Xinhua. Clearly, they were with him. They shouted that they wanted to kill Muyu, but the other demon clansmen didn't move. Xiongzhong, as the captain of the guards, you actually didn't capture the human who attacked our demon clansman. A follower who helped Jiao Xinhua up shouted angrily. Chapter 744. When the other guards saw the commotion, according to their duties, they would have already come back to stop it. However, their leaders didn't do anything, causing the guards to become anxious. One of the guards anxiously said, Boss, that human has already beaten Jiao Xinghua to such a state. Are we really not going to stop it? That's right. Didn't you just say that we received orders from above to make things difficult for this human? Isn't it best to give him a criminal charge and arrest him? Another guard also said softly. Nonsense. All of you better guard your posts properly. Didn't you hear what Jiao Xinghua said? Our rules are useless against the human race. Jiao Xinghua can't blame others for seeking death. Our duty is to guard the city gates, not to be the guards of a hedonistic son of a rich family. When will you people learn to be smarter? Being used by others all day long. Do you think you can face your parents? Do you think it was easy for your parents to raise you up? Is this how you repay your parents? A white-haired person sending off a black-haired person is. All the guards were dumbfounded and their mouths were wide open. The captain of the guards was actually lecturing everyone about the principles of life, from the kindness of one's parents to the kindness of one's teacher, and then his outlook on life, good and evil, right and wrong. In the end, he even gave psychological counseling to the other guards as the guard listened to his boss' eloquent explanation. He couldn't help but wonder if his boss had been bewitched. This uncouth man usually went to the Red Demon brothel to have fun other than drinking and swearing. He didn't even know how to read a single word. How could he suddenly come up with so many reasonable words? Lord Xiongzhong, there are people causing trouble at the city gates. You actually didn't stop them? One of Jiao Xinghua's subordinates angrily shouted. Who do you think you are? You dare shout at me? Come over here. I will also explain the philosophy of life to you. Your parents raise you up with great difficulty just to be someone's lackey? You're even a lackey's lackey. Second lackey, aren't you ashamed? Xiongzhong began to speak again. The surrounding demons were in an uproar. How did this bear suddenly become a cultured person? Xiao Shuai and Long Tongue had been laughing so hard that they were out of breath. Xiao Shuai was the one who controlled the Xiongzhong's words. Muyu had given the control of the God Soul Array to Xiao Shuai, so Xiao Shuai had made the Xiongzhong speak all kinds of principles. Muyu even heard Xiao Shuai ask the bears to say something like, being a human is like roasting a chicken drumstick. You have to know how to settle down, withstand high temperatures, and withstand hardships. Only then will the aroma spread for thousands of miles and be loved by people. What she said sounded like it was true. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be a profound philosophy of life. He didn't know what this little foodie was thinking all day long. Sometimes she was silly, and sometimes her words could enlighten people. Muyu also smiled. To be honest, although his cultivation was only at the first heavenly layer of the body integration stage, his strength was far above the third heavenly layer of the body integration stage, guard captain. It was more than enough to control this guy with the God Soul Array. More and more demons came to watch, but Muyu didn't care. He didn't come here to curry favor with the demons. He only came to see the demon monarch and discuss some matters. These demons could just stand there and watch if they wanted to. In any case, Muyu felt that he was quite good-looking. An hour later, Xiao Shui walked out of the king's city. She also noticed that the atmosphere at the city gate was a little strange. When she saw Xiongzhong giving an impassioned speech, she felt even more incredulous. Finally, she found Muyu in the crowd. Are you okay? They didn't do anything to you, right? Xiao Shui asked worriedly. No, we got along very well. Xiao Shui even taught everyone about the philosophy of life. Muyu smiled. When Xiao Shui saw Xiongzhong's expression, she immediately understood what happened. She didn't need to think to know that Xiongzhong was being controlled. Okay, let's leave. We can't stay in the King City. The King City is full of the 4 dragons. Come to my place. Leave? Aren't we going to see the Azure Dragon Demon Monarch and the Sea Demon Monarch? Muyu asked in surprise. Xiao Shui said with a serious expression, they are not here. Even Uncle White Ape left. I heard that he left 7 days ago. No one knows where he went. They all left. Muyu frowned. This wasn't something he wanted to see. No wonder the guard captain asked you to get the Sea Demon Monarch's pass. He must have known that the Sea Demon Monarch wasn't here. He purposely sent you away to make things difficult for us. Long Tongue snorted. Make things difficult for you? Muyu briefly told Xiao Shui what happened. Xiao Shui was a little annoyed. That Jiao Xinghua isn't a good person. He usually stays with Long Xingyun, but his father is the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch's confidant. You didn't do anything to him, right? No. Muyu shrugged. That's good. It's just that he won't be able to get out of bed for half a year, Muyu said casually. Huh, that's good? This is big trouble. I told you not to cause trouble. Xiao Shui was a little anxious. I don't like people provoking me. Muyu shrugged. Xiao Shui shook her head helplessly. She knew Muyu's personality, so she didn't say anything else. She just took Muyu away from the king's city and went in the other direction of the forest. I just heard that after Long Xingyun's accident, the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch of the North Shore Abyss was furious. He wanted to avenge his son, Xiao Shui said with a serious expression. Avenge? Then go look for the people of the Gate of Hell. It's none of my business. Strictly speaking, Muyu had nothing to do with Long Xingyun's death. Long Xingyun was a coward who chose to surrender to the people of the Gate of Hell. In the end, he was killed by the people of the Gate of Hell. He deserved it. Long Xingyun had 90% true dragon bloodline. He was someone that the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch wanted to nurture into a true dragon. However, he suddenly died for no reason. No one knew what happened back then. Other than us, the only one who knew the truth was Long Yeli. However, Long Yeli was sent by the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch to protect Long Xingyun. Now that Long Xingyun is dead, he came back alive. Do you think he would tell the truth in order to absolve himself? Xiao Shui took Muyu through the forest and flew toward another mountain range. There were all kinds of small wooden houses on the cliffs along the way. Then how far can he twist the lie? Long Xingyun disgracefully stole the Sea Demon King's body. The Sea Demon King must know that, right? Muyu had been admiring the local customs of the Fey race. She found that the Fey race's buildings were a little strange. In fact, they looked similar to some human villages. There were even crisscrossing farmlands where rice and corn were grown. The Sea Demon King is not here, and the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch will not ask the Sea Demon King for confirmation. He has to find someone to take responsibility for his son's death. That's the only way he can vent his anger. Xiao Shui looked at Muyu. Muyu extended his hands and rubbed his fists, making cracking noises. The coldness in his eyes was undisguisable. He smiled and said, "It's fine. I can take responsibility for the many demons who come here to seek death." Killing people wasn't something that Muyu was worried about right now. Alas, the four dragons are not as simple as you think. If Grandpa Azure Dragon was here, I wouldn't have to worry about anything. The four dragons wouldn't dare to attack you openly. Now that they're not here, the Jade Dragon Demon Monarch will definitely cause trouble for you. The guard captain and Jiao Xinghua were only sent to test your strength. You'll understand when the time comes. And it's not just you. Have you considered Dragon Vine's safety? Xiao Shui was a little annoyed by Muyu's nonchalant attitude. She was very anxious, but Muyu was still as indifferent as ever. Kill the demons who dare to target Dragon Vine. Your water spirit has been worrying about where to collect the power of slaughter. Muyu patted Dragon Vine's head. That's right. I've never liked mixed blood dragons, Dragon Vine said proudly. Xiao Shui shook her head helplessly. No matter what, we have to wait for the demon monarchs to come back. In the meantime, you have to stay with me in the Dawn Valley. There are no demons with dragon bloodline there. It's safer. Okay, I want to sleep on the same bed as big sister Xiao Shui. Little Shui happily turned his butt in Xiao Shui's arms. Little Shui, listen to me and don't go hunting demon beasts. I'll sleep with you, okay? Xiao Shui was worried that the gluttonous little Shui would run into the forest and kill some demon beasts that didn't eat. If that happened, there would be a lot of trouble. Whatever big sister Xiao Shui says. Little Shui happily squeezed himself into the soft place and giggled happily. Muyu wanted nothing more than to drag this shameless little Shui out and give him a good beating. The Dawn Valley wasn't far from the Azure Dragon Imperial City. It was only an hour's flight away. Xiao Shui usually stayed here, but she also had her own residence in the Imperial City. The Azure Dragon Demon Monarch had prepared it for her. The Dawn Valley was a place with beautiful scenery. It was somewhat similar to the valley they had just entered. The only difference was that there was a waterfall flowing down from outside the valley. The spring water flowed happily in the valley. However, there were crisscrossing wooden bridges above the spring water. There were gaps between the wooden bridges, and they could vaguely see the spring water flowing through them. On both sides of the valley were houses built on cliffs. There were also all kinds of facilities here. At this moment, there were many demon race children running around on the wooden bridges. There were also some adults who were busy, going to and fro various shops to trade for beast hides and magic treasures. Just as Xiao Shui brought Muyu into the valley, a charming woman walked over. She swayed her slender waist and walked over leisurely. "Ah, isn't this Xiao Shui? Xiao Shui, you're back." The charming woman's smile was captivating. Her voice was crisp and pleasant to the ears. "Big Sister Charming Fox, I'm back." Xiao Shui was very happy to see the charming woman and happily greeted her. Soon, there were many demon race people passing by. They all stopped to greet Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui seemed to be very popular among the demon race. "Xiao Shui, where have you been? Come over and let Annie see if you've lost weight." "Andy Zhu, I haven't lost weight." "Xiao Shui, are you hungry? Do you want to eat a pork bun?" "Grandpa Silkworm, didn't you say that you're going to be a vegetarian in the future? Why are you eating pork bun again?" "It will be strange if he's a vegetarian. Ignore him." Xiao Shui and the demon race people greeted each other happily. Muyu suddenly understood why Xiao Shui didn't like humans. It was because the demon race people here treated her very well. No wonder Xiao Shui was willing to treat herself as a member of the demon race. The charming fox sized up Xiao Shui and suddenly exclaimed, "Xiao Shui, you're no longer a virgin?" All the demon race people quieted down and looked at Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui smiled awkwardly. Just as she was about to introduce Muyu to everyone, the charming fox's strange gaze landed on Muyu. "Your virgin aura was stolen by him. Is this the little human lover you've been thinking about?" Chapter 745. Muyu discovered that he was suddenly being stared at by many pairs of eyes. Their gazes swept over him without restraint, as if they wanted to see through this outsider. "Hello, everyone. My name is Muyu." Muyu introduced himself generously. In any case, there was no need to hide his relationship with Xiao Shui. Everyone would know about it sooner or later. An ugly daughter-in-law had to meet her parents-in-law, and a handsome son-in-law had to meet his parents-in-law. Muyu had come to the place where Xiao Shui grew up. In a sense, he was here to meet Xiao Shui's maternal family. In any case, Muyu had already met that shameless old hairy monkey, so he wasn't very worried at this moment. The white and fat old man with 2 tufts of beard walked to Muyu's side and circled around Muyu twice. His eyes moved up and down, and his nose was almost touching Muyu's clothes. He bluntly shouted, "Brat, what capabilities do you have? Your skin isn't even as white as mine. What qualifications do you have to marry our daughter?" "White skin. I don't trust humans the most. Do you know how to sew? If you don't, who will make clothes for Xiao Shui in the future?" Madame Zhu held a silver needle in her hand. There was a thin thread wrapped around the needle, and she gestured with her hand. "Sewing? No, you're too short. You're not my ideal son-in-law." A burly man with a stocky back and a bear's waist walked over. He was half a body taller than Muyu, and he looked like a clumsy giant. He expressed his dissatisfaction with Muyu's height, which was a little over 1.8 meters. "He's too handsome. He'll be a womanizer. I don't want him." A middle-aged man with scabs on his face shook his head. "Why did you cut your nails so short? His hair isn't hard enough. His eyebrows are too thick. His voice isn't deep enough. His eyelashes aren't long enough." Muyu's entire body, from head to toe, and even the sesame-sized spots on the back of his hand, were not spared. In any case, he was criticized to the point that he was black and blue from head to toe. They were dissatisfied with his appearance. Muyu could not help but wonder what kind of appearance he should look like to meet the requirements of this group of demons. "Xiao Shui, how did you fall for such a human? Look at all his flaws." Aunt Zhu glanced at Muyu with dissatisfaction. Muyu was still puzzled. Couldn't he be handsome? He finally understood what Little Commander liked to say the most. In the eyes of the demon race, being handsome seemed to be a mistake. Xiao Shui helplessly shook her head. Can you guys not be like this? There's nothing between me and Muyu. I've already taken your virginity, and you still think it's nothing? Daughter, did this brat abandon her after having sex with her? Be bold and say it out loud. If you do, then this old bag of bones will fight it out with him. Old man Heavenly Silkworm rolled up his sleeves and said angrily, That's right. Did he go back on his words and not want you anymore? Then I'll skin him and make clothes out of him. Aunt Ju gestured with the silver needles wrapped in spider silk in her hand. I already said that handsome people are too fickle. Wait for me to teach him a lesson. Uncle Toad, whose face was full of scabs, said with spittle flying everywhere. Muyu did not understand the situation. Why did this group of people have the same temperament as that white ape demon king? On one hand, they despised him for his flaws, but on the other hand, they wanted him to take responsibility for Xiao Shui. Were all demons so careless? Everyone, don't worry. I will take responsibility for Xiao Shui. Muyu quickly grabbed Xiao Shui's hand and promised. You dare to touch Xiao Shui in front of us? Who wants you to take responsibility? Did you ask for our permission? Aunt Ju scolded. Muyu rubbed his head and felt a headache coming on. Why did they say that he could not abandon her after having sex with her? Now, they said that he did not need to take responsibility? Forget it. I'll just tactfully keep quiet. Muyu had an indifferent smile on his face as he accepted the criticism of Xiao Shui's family. Why aren't you saying anything? Is this brat a blockhead? Xiao Shui, how did you fall in love with this kind of person? Old man Tian said with dissatisfaction. Muyu finally understood that this group of people was deliberately finding fault with him. In any case, whatever he did was wrong. Everyone, don't be like this. Muyu is a very good person. Don't worry. I believe in him. Moreover, White Ape Demon King and Sea Demon King were both saved by him. He will be staying here for a while. Aunt Ju and Grandpa can. Hurry up and do your work. Xiao Shui grabbed Muyu's hand and squeezed through the crowd and flew forward. Hey, don't go. I just found another flaw of his. His skin is too white. Nonsense. His skin is not even as white as mine. Old man Tian can refute it. Oh, then his skin is not white enough. Already said that. Xiao Shui flew with Muyu to the end of the valley. There was a water blue house hanging on the cliff. Green vines covered the surroundings, and red flowers bloomed on the vines. This house in Madeira looked very comfortable. Sorry, don't mind them. They actually hope that I can stay in the fiend race because they brought me up. They don't want me to be deceived by bad people. Xiao Shui landed on the steps of her house and walked into the corridor. She pushed open the wooden door and saw a hall inside. There was a kitchen on the left and a small room on the right. That was Xiao Shui's room. I'm not a bad person. Moreover, I didn't deceive you. Muyu shrugged. He had nothing to complain about. Although this group of fiend race people didn't welcome him, they were still thinking for Xiao Shui. Moreover, they were Xiao Shui's elders. It was fine to be threatened. It's not like being a bad person is written on your face. Xiao Shui walked over and opened the window to let the sunlight in. She then took out the water spirit. The water spirit turned into a clear spring and covered everything in the house. She cleaned everything and took away all the dust. Then, she took back the water spirit. Everything was dry and looked brand new. Muyu walked out to the balcony and saw a small waterfall beside the house. He walked around the corridor that was suspended in the air and found that looking into the distance from the air was relaxing and pleasant. Being able to live in a house on a cliff was also a very good choice. Right, Xiao Shui, you only have one room here. Where do I sleep? Muyu leaned on the railing and asked casually. You sleep in the corridor, Xiao Shui said without hesitation. Isn't that too cruel? What if I catch a cold? Are you a cultivator? How can you catch a cold? Xiao Shui glared at Muyu. Little Handsome said happily, I want to sleep on the same bed as big sister Xiao Shui. Muyu glared at Little Handsome fiercely. Well, the corridor is the corridor. Muyu found that he was beginning to be jealous of Little Handsome. This guy was shameless, but at least he could sleep on the same bed as Xiao Shui. It was a pity that he, who had a close relationship with Xiao Shui, could only sleep in the corridor. People's hearts are not what they used to be. Soon, Madame Zhu and the old man Tian brought food to Xiao Shui and then criticized Mu Yu. Mu Yu smiled politely instead of awkwardly. As a newcomer, he didn't care about these criticisms. Compared to those monster race clansmen who were scheming to harm Mu Yu in the dark, at least Xiao Shui's family, who openly despised Mu Yu but had no intention of harming him, were more straightforward. In the afternoon, the charming fox swayed her slender waist and walked step by step to Xiao Shui's house with a basket in her hand. She said, "Xiao Shui, Uncle Wolf wants you to go to him. He said that the white ape ancestor left something for you before he left." When Xiao Shui heard that it was something left by the white ape ancestor, she immediately responded, "Okay, big sister charming fox, I'll go now. Mu Yu, wait for me here. The thing that Uncle Ape left behind may be very important. I'll be back soon," Xiao Shui said and rose into the air, quickly disappearing into the sky. Mu Yu sat on the lounge chair in the corridor, leisurely crossing his legs. In the whole house, only the charming fox and Mu Yu were left. "Little brother, you're so handsome." Every frown and smile of the charming fox was so captivating. She didn't have many clothes on her body, and the places that shouldn't be exposed were faintly discernible. Mu Yu glanced at charming fox and couldn't help but sigh at this woman's beauty. Any word that could be used to describe a girl seemed to fit her perfectly. No matter if it was pure or charming, pure or slutty, one could find traces of her. She seemed to have the characteristics of all the different types of women in the world, making every man involuntarily infatuated with her. The charming fox was naive and had the ability to attract men. Mu Yu retracted his gaze and said helplessly, "It's useless for you to say that I'm handsome. That Uncle Toad, just now, didn't like my handsomeness. Every charming fox has different tastes. You don't have to take it to heart. When I first laid eyes on you, I felt my heart beating so fast. What do you think?" The charming fox walked to Mu Yu's side and stretched out her slender hand, placing it on Mu Yu's shoulder. "What kind of feeling is this?" "I don't know. Maybe it's a heart attack." Mu Yu stretched out his hand and pushed the charming fox's hand away from his shoulder. The charming fox was not angry. She bent down and lightly laughed in Mu Yu's ear. "This servant doesn't have a heart attack. I feel that I've fallen in love with you. There are many people who like me. You have to queue up." Mu Yu stretched lazily. "But this servant wants to cut the queue. Since Xiao Shui isn't here, we can do something happy." The charming fox lightly breathed into Mu Yu's ear. "Something happy? What do you mean?" Mu Yu asked curiously. "What do you think?" The charming fox's face was already leaning on Mu Yu's shoulder. Mu Yu leaned to the side, avoiding the charming fox. "Oh, you want to do something that makes me happy?" Mu Yu thoughtfully nodded his head. "Come?" The charming fox laughed. "Come. Why don't you come?" Mu Yu stood up and walked into the house. The charming fox swayed her slender waist and followed him in. In a house covered in spider webs opposite Xiao Shui's house, Madame Zhu, Old Man Tian Can, and a few other Demon Clan members were peeking their heads out. "AI, he went in," Madame Zhu said anxiously. "See, I already said that handsome brat is unreliable. This fellow really couldn't hold back. Damn it, I'm going to skin him right now." Uncle Toad, whose face was full of scabs, was about to move out in anger. "Don't be anxious. Don't be anxious. Let's wait a little longer. When we catch him in bed, we'll see what he has to say." Old Man Tian said, "This is too much. Xiao Shui is really blind, giving her virginity to a human. I already said that humans are unreliable. The charming fox seduced him a little, and he cheated. He really deserves a beating." The giant elephant demon arched his body and said in exasperation, "He was too tall. Even if he arched his back, he would still touch the ceiling. When Xiao Shui comes back, I'll let her see the true face of this brat and make her completely give up on him. Then I'll skin him and make clothes." Madame Zhu took out her silver needles and said with a murderous look. The few of them waited for half an hour, and it felt that it was about time. They rushed out of the house and flew towards Xiao Shui's house. Bang! The door of Xiao Shui's house was suddenly opened. Madame Zhu, Old Man Tian can, and the others rushed in with murderous looks on their faces. Brat, how dare you do anything to Xiao Shui? I'll skin you alive. Chapter 746. Commander, Sister Seductive Fox, it's your turn. Muyu sat on the chair and casually pointed his finger. The carriage and horse had already forced the red team's commander into a desperate situation. The Seductive Fox's expression was not very happy. She sat on the chair and looked at Muyu with a gloomy face. She did not even want to look at the chessboard on the table. Then, Madame Zhu and the others rushed in anxiously. Old Man Tian stuffed his mouth full of silk and was about to spin a cocoon for Muyu. In the end, he found Muyu and Charming Fox sitting on the chairs, safe and sound, playing chess. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all here? Muyu greeted them politely. Old Man Tian made two woo-woo sounds as if he wanted to ask Muyu something. However, his mouth was stuffed with silk, so he could not speak. In the end, Madame Zhu spoke first. You guys, you shouldn't be in the room. What are you doing here? Oh, it's like this. Sister Seductive Fox saw that I was a little bored, so she wanted to do something to make me happy. So, we played chess together. Muyu revealed a very innocent smile. Chess. Old Man Tian finally swallowed the silk in his mouth. He looked at the Seductive Fox and Muyu suspiciously. His face was full of disbelief. This made you happy? Madame Zhu hurriedly put away her silver needles. That's not right. Under normal circumstances, you should be on the bed with the Seductive Fox. Before Uncle Toad could finish speaking, the giant elephant monster covered his mouth. Yes, chess can relieve stress and make one's mind more agile. Every time I play chess with others, I feel very happy. Muyu smiled innocently. Everyone from the monster clan opened their mouths wide. Their faces were full of disbelief. This plot did not seem right. Logically speaking, shouldn't Muyu and the Seductive Fox be on the bed, and then they would rush in and beat up Muyu? Why was he playing chess with the Seductive Fox? Seductive Fox, is this brat speaking the truth? He didn't do anything to you, right? Madame Zhu asked tentatively. The Charming Fox's face was filled with resentment, as if she had been wronged. She glared at Muyu and said, I've been playing chess with him. This time, everyone was embarrassed. They were a little flustered that they didn't catch the adulterer in bed. Originally, they wanted to rush in and use their weapons, but in the end, they couldn't find a reason to do so. This was awkward. Uncle Toad was still a little disappointed. He had always thought that handsome men were playboys. What? Do you guys want to play Chinese chess too? Why don't we have a round two? Muyu said with a chuckle. At this moment, Xiao Shui suddenly walked in from the door. When she saw so many people gathered in the room, she was stunned. She asked, Madame Zhu, Grandpa Silkworm, Uncle Toad, Uncle Elephant, why are all of you here? What's the matter? No, we are here to catch adulterers. Before Old Man Tian could finish, he was kicked by Madame Zhu. Madame Zhu showed a kind smile and said, We're here to greet your little sweetheart. It's our first time here, so we don't have anything to offer him. If we neglect him, he might say that we monster race people aren't warm enough. Yes. Uncle Toad and the giant elephant demon quickly nodded. When the giant elephant demon nodded, he even knocked his head on the ceiling, causing a loud noise. Is that so? Xiao Shui suspiciously looked at the dry smiles of the people in front of her and couldn't help but feel suspicious. It's okay. Everyone is very welcoming to me. I even had a chess match with Sister Seductive Fox. Sister Seductive Fox is a woman of many talents. There is nothing she doesn't know about. Muyu said from the back, You flatter me. Little brother Muyu's chess skills are inferior to this little girl's. Seductive Fox faintly stood up and walked towards the door with small steps. Then we will not disturb the two of you any longer. Goodbye. That's right. Xiao Shui, goodbye. Madame Zhu pushed everyone towards the door and drove them away. Xiao Shui watched them leave and sat in front of Muyu. She looked at the chessboard in front of her and suddenly said with a smile, Sister Seductive Fox is here to seduce you, right? Muyu chuckled and said, Sister Seductive Fox's figure is really good. Don't be so talkative. Back then, they said that if someone wants to be my husband in the future, they will have to pass their test. Sister Seductive Fox said that she will seduce the man who wants to marry me. If he can't control himself and is seduced by her, then she will cut off that man's penis. Xiao Shui looked at Mu Yu with a smile that is not a smile. Mu Yu felt his lower part tighten. He thought that fortunately, he saw through Seductive Fox's trick and didn't fall for it. Thinking about it, Seductive Fox was truly a beauty capable of causing the downfall of nations. She was a femme fatale. Such a beautiful demoness could indeed seduce many men. However, Mu Yu was a man of principle and wouldn't casually flirt with others. But if he doesn't flirt, he can play chess. Then why didn't you tell me about this earlier? Mu Yu put away the chessboard on the table. As for the chess, he directly turned it into a piece of wood. He naturally wouldn't carry chess around with him. It was easy to make a chess set out of wood. It was just a matter of a breath. Xiao Shui simply said, "I forgot." Mu Yu dryly laughed twice. He didn't believe that Xiao Shui would forget about this matter. Right? What did old hairy monkey give you? Mu Yu didn't care about the demon race's test earlier. Instead, he was more interested in what the white ape demon king left for Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui took out a finger-sized golden beast bone, placed it on the table, and said, "I don't know. I didn't open it on the way here. Uncle Ape specially made this for me. Only my spirit power can open it." Xiao Shui's finger touched the golden beast bone, and blue spirit power entered it. Then, a familiar and vigorous voice came out of the beast bone. "Xiao Shui, I heard about the Demon Island from Yijiang. We're going to the Eternal Daylight Forbidden Area. The matter of the Moon God clan cannot be delayed. If you bring that little bastard back, don't let him leave the demon race. Tell him to wait for us obediently. We will be back in at least 1 month, at most 2 months. We will find a way to deal with Jian Ying and Chun Feng, but the matter of the Moon God clan is more important." After a pause, the White Ape Demon King suddenly said, "Right, this is for that little bastard. If you dare to touch Xiao Shui, see if I don't beat you to death when you come back. If you want to be my son-in-law, you have to get our approval first. By the way, I'm really not interested in being your father-in-law. Just looking at you makes me angry. If I see you in hell again, you'll be dead. F***CK. Why is this old hairy monkey always so shameless?" Mu Yu was inexplicably scolded. This old hairy bastard still had the nerve to mention hell on earth. He angrily cursed the ancestors of the White Ape Demon King. He thought that when he had cultivation in the future, the first thing he would do was to pluck out all the hairs of this old hairy monkey. He didn't want to be his father-in-law all day long. Xiao Shui said, "In any case, there's nothing else to do. We can only wait for the 3 demon kings to come back." Mu Yu was helpless. Now that his master was in the hands of the threefold palaces by Jie, he could only rely on the 3 demon kings. Other than waiting for them to come back, there was nothing else he could do. Mu Yu said, "By the way, Xiao Shui, since we have to wait for so long, you can't bear to let me sleep in the corridor for 2 months, right?" Xiao Shui angrily said, "Shouldn't cultivators cultivate all the time? What are you sleeping for?" Xiao Shui snapped. Mu Yu scratched his head and said, "I can usually cultivate when I'm sleeping." Xiao Shui put away the golden beast bone and walked towards her room. "Then you can make a wooden bed in the hall. In any case, don't even think about entering my room. That's not fair. We already had sex. You said it yourself that it was unconscious. I still haven't decided whether to accept you or not. I said that I will be responsible for you, not before you marry me." Mu Yu sat on the chair dejectedly. Xiao Shui happily winked at Mu Yu from Xiao Shui's shoulder. Mu Yu wished he could strangle this shameless mistress to death. The area where the shifter race lived was not as vast as the human race's land. However, the wasteland was still quite vast. The Azure Dragon dynasty was divided into 4 dragon clans. Among them, the Jade Jiao Dragon and the Hidden Forest Black Tiger Dragon were the 2 most powerful factions. The Jade Jiao Dragon resided at the bottom of an abyss in a mountain range to the north of the Azure Dragon Imperial City. The abyss was close to 1,000 meters long. At the bottom of the abyss was a dragon pond. Normally, sunlight would not be able to reach this place. The air here was extremely cold, and the spiritual energy was abundant. This was the Jade Jiao Dragon's residence. No one dared to approach this place. The dragon pond was usually very calm. There was not even the slightest ripple on the surface of the water. It was like a pool of stagnant water. Even a leaf would not dare to fall into it. There were special phosphor stones on both sides of the abyss, illuminating the entire dragon pond as bright as day. But suddenly, a strong whirlpool appeared in the dragon pond, and a majestic aura surged out from the dragon pond. Huge waves appeared on the surface of the water, and then there was a loud explosion, and the water splashed up 1,000 meters high. A white jade Jiao dragon rushed out from the dragon vines and let out a long roar. The echo lingered in the air and spread far and wide. The shifter race in the distance lay on the ground and trembled. In the blink of an eye, the jade Jiao dragon had already left the dragon pond. It landed on the edge of the cliff and transformed into a human figure. This was a middle-aged man with a sinister face. His face was pale, but there was a ruthless aura between his brows. He was the leader of the dragon race in the northern abyss, the Jade Jiao dragon, Long Shangzhou. Beside him, a woman was looking at him with a sorrowful expression. Why did Xingyun leave just like that? We must find the person who killed him. The woman's eyes were red. She was secretly wiping her tears. She was the deceased Long Xingyun's mother, Long Kachin. She was from the demonic dragon python race. Don't worry, madam. Long Yeli said that a human named Mu Yu killed him. Yesterday, Xiao Shui brought him back to the shifter race. So, he can forget about leaving the shifter race alive. I wanted to die with Xingyun. The Jade Jiao dragon clenched its fists. Its entire body was emitting a strong, murderous intent. Long Xingyun had 9 levels of the true dragon bloodline. He was the most likely shifter to become a true dragon. However, he did not expect that he would never return. When he asked Long Yeli, he found out that Mu Yu was related to Long Xingyun's death. As Long Xingyun's father, how could he not be angry? Leader, you must seek justice for Xinghua. Yesterday, Mu Yu had just entered the shifter race and severely injured Xinghua. I'm afraid that there will be serious repercussions. You must seek justice for me. A middle-aged man in black clothes knelt beside the Jade Jiao dragon and said sorrowfully. This man was Jiao Guanwen, Jiao Xinghua's father. He was the Jade Jiao dragon's confidant and also a military advisor. Usually, when the Jade Jiao dragon was fighting with the other 3 dragon clans, it was Jiao Guanwen who gave advice. When he found out that Mu Yu had just entered the shifter race's imperial city, he sent his son to find trouble with Mu Yu. He wanted to secretly force Mu Yu to attack the imperial city's guards and then accuse him of assassinating the shifter king. However, he did not expect that Mu Yu would turn the tables on him. The guards seemed to be possessed and did not make things difficult for Mu Yu. However, Jiao Xinghua was severely injured. He wanted to capture Mu Yu and offer him to the Jade Jiao dragon to please his master. However, he did not expect that his son would be killed as well. The Jade Jiao dragon snorted angrily. Get up first. I will never let him off the hook for this matter. Where's Mu Yu now? Leader, according to our scouts, Xiao Shui has brought him back to the Dawn Valley. Dawn Valley? He went there. What should we do now? The Dawn Valley is... Don't worry. They're not here now. We have nothing to fear. I can't leave for the next few days. Go and capture Mu Yu for me. Chapter 747. Early in the morning, the sound of birds chirping echoed outside the house. Mu Yu was still dreaming when Xiao Shui suddenly shouted, waking him up. He opened his eyes in a daze and saw Xiao Shui's fiery eyes. Good morning, Xiao Shui. Mu Yu stretched her body and realized that she had been covered with a quilt at some point in time. The quilt was emitting a faint fragrance. He looked around and found that he had run into Xiao Shui's bed. Huh, did I transmigrate? Mu Yu tilted his head and blinked. Xiao Shui blushed and snatched the blanket from Mu Yu. She covered herself and shouted, Why did you run into my bed? Mu Yu was also puzzled. I don't know. When you were sleeping last night, I wanted to cultivate. Then, the two of them understood. You did it on purpose. Xiao Shui said angrily. Didn't you say that you were going to cultivate at night? I cultivated last night. Mu Yu said innocently. You, get out. Xiao Shui was about to go crazy. Muyu said that he had spent the night sleeping, so Xiao Shui was relieved to cultivate. She didn't expect that Muyu was also cultivating, and the two of them ended up doing the same thing again. It's not the first time. Why are you treating me like an outsider? Muyu muttered and stood up. He picked up his clothes from the floor and put them on. However, there was an imperceptible smile on his face. Only God knows if he did it on purpose or not. Muyu opened the door and saw Xiao Shui snoring in the corridor. He grabbed Xiao Shui's tail and stuffed him into his pocket. The first wife still had to defeat the third wife. Xiao Shui also put on her clothes and came out. She put her hands on her waist and shouted, "You are not allowed to cultivate at night. You have to keep a good schedule. You are not allowed to cultivate within 100 meters of me. Opportunities are fought for by oneself. Look, after we cultivated last night, my cultivation has increased again." Muyu stretched and his bones crackled. The aura of his second firmament body integration stage was revealed. "You're too much," Xiao Shui snorted. However, she had to admit that cultivating together was beneficial. Her cultivation had also increased to the 9th firmament severing soul stage. "Did you notice that your cultivation always increases faster than mine when you cultivate with me?" Muyu said enviously. "I should really send you to the top of the mountain to sleep." Xiao Shui angrily turned around and flew out of the house. "Hey, where are you going? You don't have to run away from home, right?" Muyu shouted from behind. "Go eat something to vent your anger," Xiao Shui said without turning her head. "Didn't you say that I can lose weight? That's none of your business." Muyu rubbed her nose. A girl's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. Obviously, it was for everyone's good, but she was always unwilling to admit it. Life in the Valley of Dawn was very peaceful. At least, that was what Muyu thought. This place was like a paradise. No one from the devil race would make a big fuss. More than 5,000 years ago, 9 out of the 10 demon kings were sealed by the powerful figures of the human race. Only the Azure Dragon Demon King was not sealed. The devil race suffered unprecedented oppression. Under the Azure Dragon Devil King's lead, they came here to live in seclusion and recuperate. In order to revitalize the devil race, the Azure Dragon Devil King set a series of rules. He did not allow the devil race to kill each other. He also learned the etiquette and culture of the human race. Their social system was similar to that of the human race. In a way, the devil race's life was actually more advanced than that of the human race. In the human race's cities, everyone would fight over a disagreement. It was normal to kill someone. However, in the devil race's cities, there were quarrels and fights, but no one dared to kill. At this time, Muyu's cultivation had stabilized at the 2nd firmament of the body integration stage. However, his true strength was far beyond that. Formations and swordsmanship were what he relied on at the moment, but his strongest trump card came from the bloodthirsty killing power. This power was hidden in Mu Ling and could allow Mu Ling to display terrifying strength. However, Mu did not want to use this power casually because it would affect Mu Yu's state of mind and cause his aura to change. Mu Yu did not want to become a killing machine. Mu Yu sat cross-legged in the corridor and cultivated the falling dust cultivation technique. Then, he spat out a mouthful of turbid air. The spirit energy in his body shook slightly, and he felt refreshed. Originally, he thought that the resonance between him and Xiao Shui was because of Mu Ling and Shui Ling. However, Mu Ling's aura had been sealed by Mu Yu, so the real problem should be their Yumeng abilities. Mu Yu looked at the time and found that Xiao Shui had not returned yet. He thought to himself that since he would be staying here for a while, he should familiarize himself with the living habits of the monster race. He looked at the monster race people coming and going from the corridor in the air as he walked down the winding stairs. At the bottom of the stairs were some restaurants, magic artifact shops, and medicine shops. All kinds of monster race people came and went, greeting each other. When Mu Yu arrived on the street, many monster race people glanced at him. Originally, Xiao Shui was the only human in the entire monster race. Suddenly, another human had appeared. This news had already spread throughout the entire Dawn Valley. Brat, you slept in the same room as Xiao Shui last night. You didn't do anything to her, right? Old Man Sky's silkworm walked over with a meat bun in his hand. He stared at Muyu with ill intentions. No, Old Man Can. The two of us were very obedient. Muyu smiled innocently. He was too lazy to tell these people what he did last night. But I saw Xiao Shui's depressed expression just now. Did you make her angry? Anju said in an unfriendly tone as she carried a basket full of needles and thread. How could I dare? If I made Xiao Shui angry, wouldn't you be the first to find trouble with me? Muyu spread his hands. It was rare for Xiao Shui to be taken care of by this group of monster race uncles and aunties. It's good that you know, Xiao Shui is our daughter. If you let her down, you'll have to bear the consequences. A slow-walking snail, Uncle said in a low, muffled voice. Muyu was already used to such threats. After all, these people were only concerned about Xiao Shui, so Muyu did not think too much about it. Everyone make way. The nine-tailed cat brothers have been poisoned. Hurry up and find Dr. Woodpecker. At this time, a shout came from outside the valley, attracting everyone's attention. A monster race member with two antennae on his head flapped his wings and shouted in the air. He and another monster race member were carrying two stretchers. The two beasts carrying the stretchers seemed to be dragonfly-type beasts. They had 4 hands and 8 hands. They were carrying 2 stretchers at the same time as they flew over. The monster race members on the street hurriedly squeezed to the side. Some of them even flew up to make way for the 2 monster race members. Muyu also moved aside. He glanced at the 2 monster race members on the stretchers. The skin of the 2 nine-tailed cat race members was originally black and white, but now it had turned yellow. The 2 of them were already on the verge of death. It looked like they could only breathe in and not out. The 2 nine-tailed cat brothers were carried into the medical hall. An old man with a solemn expression hurriedly walked out from the back of the room and began to take the 2's pulse. What happened? How did they get so severely poisoned? The old doctor asked with a serious expression. The old doctor wore a white robe. He didn't have the characteristics of a monster race member. His aura was also very condensed. He was at the body integration stage. The 6-armed monster race member hurriedly said, the nine-tailed cat brothers usually catch the 3 pure, illusionary winged beasts to sell to the restaurant. But today, they seem to have accidentally entered the ruins and got infected by the poisonous fog. Then they became like this. The ruins? Didn't you repeatedly tell us not to go to the ruins? Then did you guys seal their bodies like I said? The old doctor's expression slightly changed. Not only him, but the other monster race members also changed their expressions when they heard the words ruins. They seemed to be very afraid of the ruins. Yes, we use spirit power to seal off their bodies. The dragonfly monster race member quickly nodded. The old doctor took out a thin silver needle and looked around with a serious expression. He said, all of you back up a bit. The ruins' poisonous fog is very scary. When the monster race members heard about the ruins' poisonous fog, they quickly moved back. They were afraid that they would be infected by the poisonous fog from the nine-tailed cat brothers. The originally crowded clinic quickly became empty. Only Muyu was left in the clinic. The other monster race members all retreated to the door. The old doctor glanced at Muyu and scolded. You're the young human that Xiao Shui brought back? Hurry up and get out. Don't get infected by the poisonous fog. Muyu looked at the nine-tailed cat and said, It's okay. I'll take a look. The poison in these 2 is a bit strange. Nonsense. The poisonous fog in the ruins isn't that simple. Hurry up and leave. Don't get in the way. The old doctor waved his hand. Muyu could only take 2 steps back. He didn't want to disturb the old doctor. The old doctor used a thin silver needle in his right hand to lightly touch one of the nine-tailed cat's skin. At the same time, a brown spirit power appeared in his left hand and enveloped the nine-tailed cat. The silver needle only made a needle-sized wound on the nine-tailed cat's skin. However, a yellow fog continuously rushed out of the wound and broke through the spirit power barrier set up by the dragonfly monster race. The poisonous fog continued to attack the old doctor's spirit power barrier. The old doctor frowned. What a scary poisonous fog. Fortunately, you 2 didn't make any wounds on them when you carry them back. Otherwise, you two would be in trouble. The two six-armed demon clansmen jumped in fright, and their faces turned pale. Even if they followed the old doctor's instructions and used their spiritual energy to seal the nine-tailed cat brothers' bodies, it would be useless. The poisonous fog could completely disperse their spiritual energy. The danger was actually so close to them just now. The two of them secretly broke out in cold sweat. Can the nine-tailed cat brothers be saved? Madame Zhu asked outside the door. The old doctor looked at the poisonous fog that had already enveloped one of the nine-tailed cat race members and shook his head. The poison in the ruins is too scary. The two of them have been poisoned too deeply. They can't be saved. Prepare for their funeral. The old doctor sighed. Everyone had a look of pity on their faces, but they did not refute him. Every demon clansman seemed to know what the poisonous fog of the ruins meant. When the old doctor announced that the nine-tailed cat brothers could not be saved, they all shook their heads in resignation. Chapter 748. The moment Muyu opened his mouth, the atmosphere suddenly quieted down. Everyone's gaze fell on Muyu. Human brat, what nonsense are you spouting here? The old doctor already said that they can't be saved. What are you trying to do? Uncle Toad shouted at the door. That's right. You don't even know what the desolate ruins poison is, and you're talking nonsense. Madame Zhu also reprimanded. The desolate ruins poison is a highly toxic poison. There's no antidote. Do you understand? The giant elephant demon bowed. No antidote? That's not necessarily true. It depends on the situation. Although Muyu didn't know what the desolate ruins poison was, he didn't care where the poison came from. No matter how complicated the poison was, it was made up of various elements. He only needed to analyze the specific components of the poison and, according to the interactions between the toxins, he could resolve it step by step. Old doctor, you're someone who saves the dying and helps the injured. Why didn't you try to treat them and say that you're preparing for their funeral? Isn't that too irresponsible? Muyu was very puzzled. The old doctor only scratched the nine-tailed cat's skin and didn't even try to detoxify the poison. He directly sentenced the two nine-tailed cats to death. It was really arbitrary. In his opinion, these two nine-tailed cats were not hopeless. How dare you? How dare a human brat question the old doctor's medical skills? Old man Tian was still biting the meat bun in his mouth as he scolded incoherently. Do you know who the old doctor is? He's the most famous doctor in our demon race. Many of our demon race's injuries were cured by the old doctor. How dare a human brat like you question our old doctor? The old doctor was personally praised by the Azure Dragon Demon King. The human ancestors were all born to practice medicine. The giant elephant demon said. Moreover, this isn't the first time we've encountered this kind of thing. Every few days, there will be demon race members who are injured by the desolate ruins poison. Those who are poisoned too deeply can't be saved. Madame Zhu added. The other members of the demon race chimed in as well. They were furious that Muyu had questioned their divine doctor. This was because everyone here had been treated by the divine doctor before. If they had any injuries, they would look for the divine doctor. They were all extremely respectful towards him. Now, a human brat who had just arrived actually dared to speak of the divine doctor in such a manner. Brat, did you just say that I'm irresponsible? The old doctor's tone was very angry. It was originally an ironclad matter, but Muyu wanted to interfere and even questioned his medical skills. This was a challenge to his authority. Muyu said seriously, I can cure this poison. You can cure the poison in the desolate ruins? What a joke. Brat, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't speak carelessly. Be careful that the wind doesn't cut your tongue. The old doctor snorted coldly. Whether the poison is deep or not, I still have to try. Don't come to a conclusion yet. Muyu walked towards the nine-tailed cat brothers. These two nine-tailed cat brothers were brothers. The older one was called Mao Dejiu, and the younger one was called Mao Xiaojiu. At this moment, Mao Dejiu was being restrained by the old doctor's spiritual energy. Their symptoms were the same. After being infected by the so-called desolate ruins poison, their auras were weak. They could only breathe in but not out. If they didn't receive effective treatment, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Human brat, don't come over. Do you know what the Desolate Ruins poison is? If your cultivation isn't high enough, don't blame me for not warning you when you get poisoned. I've been tolerating you because of Xiao Shui. Don't seek your own death. The old doctor shouted at Muyu. Desolate Ruins poison? I don't know. Muyu said honestly. If you don't know, then why are you here? Even us demon race can't withstand the Desolate Ruins poison fog, let alone a weak human like you. After being infected by the Desolate Ruins poison, you'll either die or be crippled. Do you know that? The old doctor, like all the other demon race members, looked down on the human's physique. After all, the demon race's physique was naturally much stronger than the humans. Muyu, hurry up and come back. If something happens to you, Xiao Shui will blame us later. Old Man Tian can shout it from outside. The demon race members didn't dare to take a step into the clinic. Otherwise, they would have already rushed up to pull Muyu back. Although Old Man Tian had picked on Muyu when Muyu first arrived, he still didn't want anything to happen to Xiao Shui's little lover. The Desolate Ruins poison fog is very scary. Even Ancestor Azure Dragon can't do anything about it. Don't go over. Madame Zhu also shouted. You're just a weak human. Do you have to court death? Uncle Toad also scolded. Everyone thought that Muyu was courting death. The Desolate Ruins poison fog had left a huge shadow on the demon race members. To them, the Desolate Ruins poison fog was like the Grim Reaper, causing them to be terrified. I don't know what the Desolate Ruins poison fog is, but I know how to cure it. Muyu didn't listen to Madame Zhu and the others' advice. He had already walked to Mao Xiaojio's side and reached out to touch his forehead. Human brat, stop. Don't touch him. If you break his skin, all of us will die because of you. Where's the Dawn Valley Guard captain? Hurry up and chase him out. The old doctor said angrily. He was trying his best to force the poison fog back into Mao Xiaojio's body, so he couldn't stop Muyu. The poison fog could invade a self-cultivator's spirit chi. The old doctor had to trap the poison fog before it eroded his spirit chi. Otherwise, it would be bad if the poison fog spread. With so many demon race members crowding around the entrance of the clinic, the Dawn Valley Guard captain had already been alerted. At this moment, two spirit-severing stage guard captains squeezed through the crowd and stood at the entrance. They shouted at Muyu, "How dare you? Hurry up and come out. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude." The two spirit-severing stage guard captain didn't dare to step into the clinic. The Desolate Ruins poison fog was something that the demon race members were terrified of. They didn't want to get involved with it. Ing Datian, He Erlang, what are you two waiting for? Hurry up and chase this brat out. The old doctor yelled. Ing Datian and He Erlang looked at each other. They really didn't want to enter the clinic, but the old doctor's position in the Dawn Valley was very high. They couldn't disobey his orders, so they could only brace themselves and walk into the clinic. Ing Datian shouted fiercely, "Brat, if you don't want to die, hurry up and get over here." Muyu thought it was a little funny. He was already standing there. Clearly, he wasn't afraid of death. On the other hand, Ing Datian was terrified of the Desolate Ruins poison and didn't dare to get close. However, He Erlang still mustered up his courage and approached Muyu. He wanted to drag Muyu out. Muyu's cultivation was much higher than He Erlang's. However, he didn't want to casually fight with the demon race members of the Dawn Valley. After all, the demon race members here seemed quite nice. Therefore, he said, "Old doctor, how about we make a bet? Give me some time. I'll help these two nine-tailed cats detoxify the poison. Since you've already given up on them, let me try. It's like giving medicine to a dead horse." Hey, little human brat, what are you talking about? What do you mean by giving medicine to a dead horse? Do you want to die? A blazing horse demon outside the clinic scolded in exasperation. Muyu touched his forehead. He realized that he couldn't casually say things related to animals in the demon race. Otherwise, he would offend the demon race. However, the old doctor said angrily, "Nonsense. Is the Desolate Ruins poison something you can use as a bet? Don't spread the poison before you can save them and kill all the demon race members." "I won't. I'm confident in detoxifying the poison." Muyu was naturally not afraid of poison. He had also received Deadwood Daddy's teachings. The desolate ruins poison might scare the demon race, but it was a different story for Muyu. I don't have confidence in you. The old doctor still refused to agree. Old doctor, if you keep obstructing me like this, you'll delay the treatment. The longer it takes, the worse it will be for them. Old doctor, just because you can't save them doesn't mean I can't. You can't harm them. Muyu said, I'll harm them? I'm worried that you'll harm us. The old doctor felt that his dignity had been insulted. The desolate ruins poison had no antidote. This was common knowledge among the demon race. However, this ignorant brat had come looking for trouble. He even said that he couldn't save them in front of everyone. This was too much. Old doctor, if you don't give me a chance, how will you know? There are countless poisons in the world. It's understandable that you don't know all of them. Bastard. Fine, I'll give you a chance. If you can't save them, I'll personally chase you out of Dawn Valley. When that happens, even Xiao Shui won't be able to save them. The old doctor was angered by Muyu's words. How could he, a demon race doctor, be looked down upon by a human brat at this time? What if I can save them? Muyu retorted. The old doctor said angrily, if you can save them, I'll kneel down and kowtow to you. I'll acknowledge you as my master. Muyu hurriedly waved his hand. There's no need for that. I'm only in charge of saving people. I don't want to take in random disciples. Little bastard, how arrogant of you. The old doctor was so angry that his face turned red. He was a demon race doctor. He had already said that, but he was still choked by Muyu. How could he show his face now? However, the old doctor didn't think much of it. If the desolate ruins poison was so easy to cure, it wouldn't have troubled the demon race for so many years. One had to know that the demon race had the Azure Dragon Demon King. Even the Azure Dragon Demon King was helpless against the desolate ruins poison. What was this human little bastard worth? The others were also criticizing Muyu for boasting shamelessly. The old doctor was a highly respected divine doctor senior in the demon race. Not to mention his high cultivation, other than the desolate ruins poison that he couldn't cure, many of the demon race's incurable diseases were cured by him. Everyone was very respectful of the old doctor. Their impression of Muyu had also plummeted. Originally, Madame Zhu and the others thought that Muyu had passed the temptation of the charming fox and had a good mind. However, today, he had become arrogant and conceited. However, the demon race seemed to have forgotten one thing. Everyone had their own specializations. No matter how powerful the Azure Dragon Demon King was, it was impossible for him to know everything. Especially in the matter of detoxification, Muyu's attainments could be said to be unfathomable. Muyu broke a small piece of wood on the wooden table and carefully pierced it into Mao Xiaojiu's skin. The poison was absorbed into the wood bit by bit. At this time, Muyu already knew what the poison was made of and what its composition and nature were. Muyu had never seen this kind of poison before, and Deadwood Daddy had never concocted it before. However, he could use the method taught by his old man to use his spirit force to search for each poison in the poison fog of the desolate ruins. Each poison had a different reaction to spirit force fluctuations. Relying on this point, he could determine what kind of poison it was made of and use different effect to detoxify it. The poison fog of the desolate ruins was very complicated. At least, it was the most complicated poison Muyu had ever seen. However, it was still not difficult for Muyu. Back then, he was the well-deserved first place in the Pill Cauldron Sect's pill-sniffing knowledge competition. His ability to distinguish the ingredients was not just for show. The old doctor saw that Muyu was only holding a small piece of wood about the length of a finger and gesturing. Other than that, he did nothing else. He immediately snorted coldly and said, "Boy, with your careless appearance, how can you cure the poison?" "Old doctor, I said that I can detoxify the poison, so I could detoxify it. Don't worry, even if I detoxify the poison, I won't make you kowtow," Muyu casually said. Chapter 749. The conversation between the old doctor and Muyu was clearly heard by the demons outside the clinic. Like the old doctor, they did not believe that Muyu could detoxify the poison. They were also very angry at Muyu's confident look. However, at this time, because the old doctor had said so, everyone was waiting to see Mu Yu embarrass himself. I'm so angry. Where did Xiao Shui go? I really should let her take a good look at this brat's scoundrel face. Old man Tian cursed. Xiao Shui left Dawn Valley this morning and hasn't returned yet. It's okay, we can all testify. Madame Zhu snorted. Little Shui and Long Tongue were listening to the side and were angry. Long Tongue said discontentedly, "Why are these demons so short-sighted? Should I go out and shout?" That's right. The ancestor who plays with poisons is here. How dare they question him like this? They are really blind, Little Shui said. The two of them naturally knew what ability Mu Yu, who could control trees and had received Deadwood Daddy's teachings, had. Seeing the demons complaining there, they were annoyed. Don't be impulsive. They actually don't have any bad intentions. Mu Yu quickly analyzed the extent of the poison in Mao Xiaojiu's body and found that the desolate ruin poison had invaded Mao Xiaojiu's meridians. Even his spiritual power was contaminated with poison. This situation was very similar to Deadwood Daddy's body before his cultivation was dispersed. However, Deadwood Daddy's body was contaminated with all kinds of poisons in the world. After a long time, there was no cure. However, the desolate ruin poison had just invaded Mao Xiaojiu's body, so it was very easy to cure it. Mu Yu quickly analyzed the method to detoxify the desolate ruin poison in his mind. He nodded thoughtfully, gathered a green spiritual power in his hand, and extended it along Mao Xiaojiu's forehead to his heart. Then, he looked up and asked the old doctor, "Old doctor, do you have crispy cloudwood here? It's the kind of plant used to stop bleeding." "Why are you asking this? Don't tell me you want to use crispy cloud wood to detoxify the poison. What are you daydreaming about?" The old doctor saw that Mu Yu did not seem to be infected by the poison. Furthermore, his control of spiritual energy surprised him. However, because the desolate ruins poison was too terrifying for them, he still did not think that Mu Yu could cure the poison. "Forget it, I'll look for it myself." Mu Yu stabilized the small sawdust stuck in Kitty Nine's body and walked to the medicine cabinet in the clinic. Soon, all the herbs in the medicine cabinet appeared in his mind. He opened the medicine cabinet and took out a large piece of crispy cloudwood. At the same time, he found a few forest flowers and ancient cypress grass. Old doctor, you have a lot of herbs here. They even have the rare and precious Zi Ming leaf. Mu Yu took out a withered leaf that was emitting a white light from the medicine cabinet in the corner. He weighed it in his hand and found that it was not old enough. Then, he quietly gave a boost. The whole process was done very discreetly. When the old doctor saw that Mu Yu had taken out all the herbs in his collection, he was furious. "Brat, put it down. Don't touch my herbs. I had to search through the entire swamp to find it. If he was not forcing the poison out of Kitty Nine's body, he would have already rushed over to Mu Yu. Those herbs were very precious. How could he treat them as child's play? Why are you looking for so many herbs?" Mu Yu waved his hand, and all the herbs floated in the air. "Why are you looking for so many herbs? Why would Xiao Shui like a fool like you? I'm a doctor. Of course, I'm looking for herbs to treat illnesses. What else can I do?" The old doctor was so angry that his beard was sticking up. "Then it's fine. These herbs can save their lives. It's understandable that I take them out. You can't cure the poison, but I can." Mu Yu took out some other herbs. Because he wanted to save 2 people, this amount was not enough. So, he turned around and made a copy of the herbs with his back facing the others. "Where did you get your confidence from? How can these herbs be used to cure the poison?" The old doctor's lungs were about to explode. He had been a doctor for his entire life. Almost everyone in the Azure Dragon dynasty knew his name. When it came to illnesses, he would treat them if he could. If he couldn't, he wouldn't waste his time. He had spent his entire life researching the desolate ruins poison. He had tried all kinds of herbs, but none of them worked. However, this human kid who had just arrived dared to mess around with his herbs in front of him. He didn't know anything and dared to say that he could cure the desolate ruins poison. This was obviously questioning his medical skills. This made him very angry. Mu Yu did not refute anything. He walked back to Kitty Nine's side and used his spiritual power to crush the herbs in his hand. He crushed them into powder and divided them into 2 portions. He added the same medicinal powder to each portion. He tilted his head and muttered, "There's still one portion missing. Let me think. The blood of the howling sky butterfly." Muyu glanced at the Fey clansmen who were watching the commotion and were afraid of death at the entrance of the clinic. He realized that there were no Fey clansmen like the howling sky butterfly. However, his gaze suddenly fixed on Old Man Tian Can. His eyes immediately lit up. Tian Can's blood. Oh right, Tian Can's blood is even better. I forgot about the white-skinned Lord Tian Can. Muyu quickly walked in front of Old Man Tian Can and revealed a harmless smile. "Lord Tian Can, I have something to discuss with you." Old Man Tian Can immediately shrank back. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and scolded, "What do you want to do to an old man like me, you arrogant little bastard? No, save someone. Your Fey beast blood is a very important medicinal catalyst. It can cure poison, especially Lord Tian Can's blood. It's extremely precious." Muyu said seriously, "Bullshit. I've never heard that my blood can cure poison. What's more, I'm a Fey, which is of a higher level than Fey beasts. How can Fey beasts compare my blood?" Old Man Tian Can said angrily, "To Fey beasts, Fey clansmen were like cultivators to mortals. They had a sense of superiority. Fey clansmen are of a higher level. Then your blood must be more effective in detoxifying poison. Come on, for your clansmen, you'd better sacrifice yourself. It's not much, just 2 bowls of blood. You're white and fat. Nothing will happen to you if you lose 2 bowls of blood," Muyu urged. 2 bowls of blood. Do you think I'm slaughtering a pig? Human boy, you bastard. I didn't provoke you. Are you deliberately making things difficult for me?" Old Man Tian Can cursed loudly. At the same time, he squeezed through the crowd and stayed away from Muyu. He would rather die than donate blood. Hurry up. Saving a Fey's life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda. Time waits for no one. Muyu waved his hand. Suddenly, his figure flashed and he passed through the crowd. He came behind Old Man Tian Can, who was only at the out-of-body stage. A wooden tube was inserted into Old Man Tian Can's blood vessel. "Ah, I'm going to kill you." Old Man Tian Can couldn't resist Muyu, who was at the form synthesis stage. He immediately screamed like a pig being slaughtered. However, Muyu only took a moment to take his blood. The wooden tube sucked out Old Man Tian Can's blood. Then he returned to the clinic with 2 bowls of white blood floating in his hand. "Human boy, you're dead. I'll tell Xiao Shui and ask her to dump you. You're not a Fey at all. You're so disrespectful to an old man. Oh yes, you're not a Fey. You're not a human." To be honest, it didn't matter to Old Man Tian Can that his blood was sucked out of 2 bowls. The Fey clansmen had thick skin and flesh. They didn't even need to blink their eyes to drain a bucket of blood. However, he was unwilling to give up and cursed loudly. If he wasn't worried about being contaminated by the poisonous fog in the clinic, he would have rushed in and spat out several mouthfuls of silk to kill Muyu. All the Fey clansmen began to glare at Muyu angrily. He dared to attack a Fey clansman in broad daylight. He was simply courting death. Even the old doctor who was suppressing the 9 desolate ruins poison was trembling with anger at Muyu's actions. To the old doctor, Muyu is simply fooling around. Muyu crushed more than a dozen seemingly ordinary herbs and finally kneaded them in a powder. Then he added them in a certain order. The process of adding herbs was very strict because different herbs would have different reactions. He needed to neutralize the repulsive force between them. Muyu wasn't worried about this kind of poison. After all, if there was any poison, he could just filter it through the trees. However, for other people, he had to treat them step by step according to Professor Deadwood Daddy's method. These herbs were mixed into a bowl of blood, and the white heavenly silkworm blood began to boil. Muyu gently shook it with his spiritual power. The spiritual power needed to be injected into a few of the herbs to refine the resistance of some of them. Fortunately, the resistance of these herbs was very easy to remove, so it wasn't too difficult. You want to cure the desolate ruins poison with just these herbs and blood? What the hell are you thinking? The old doctor was furious. He didn't approve of Muyu's ridiculous method. The Fey clansmen were still scolding and pointing at Muyu. The old doctor was so angry that his beard was blowing and his eyes were glaring. However, Muyu didn't care at all. He carefully opened Mao Xiaojiu's mouth and fed the medicine to Mao Xiaojiu. The poison that Muyu had concocted slowly entered Mao Xiaojiu's body. The medicinal liquid gathered around the green spiritual power that Muyu had placed on Mao Xiaojiu's body. Then, Muyu waved his hand again, and the green spiritual power began to dissolve, gradually spreading the medicinal ingredients all over Mao Xiaojiu's body. All the Fey clansmen looked at Muyu's actions and whispered to each other, criticizing Muyu for doing something wrong. However, because no one dared to step forward to stop him, they could only stare. However, after a long time, Mao Xiaojiu still didn't show any signs of waking up. "Kid, have you gone too far?" The old doctor couldn't help but shout again. After that, Muyu brought the remaining medicinal herbs to the old doctor's side and prepared to give it to Mao Dejiu. "I'm not fooling around. I'm saving you Fey clansmen," Muyu said helplessly. "You made blood and destroyed my spiritual medicine, and you say you're not fooling around? You. The old doctor glared at Muyu angrily. "That's right. Why did Xiao Shui take a fancy to such a show-off fool? What's so good about this guy? No, we can't let Xiao Shui be harmed by this human fool. That's right, I object to this marriage. It's fine if his skin isn't white enough, but he's disrespectful to the elderly. This is too much. I must use silk to spin him into a cocoon and hang him in the Dawn Valley to parade him through the streets." Everyone was also criticizing Muyu, especially the old man Tian Can. He was the one who scolded the most. He had 2 bowls of blood drawn by Muyu for no reason. It would be strange if he didn't go berserk. However, at that moment, Mao Xiaojiu, who had taken Muyu's herbs, suddenly moved. Then, he sat up abruptly, stretched his head out, and directly vomited large mouthfuls of blood. The blood he vomited was actually black blood that was emitting a strange smoke. What's going on? Did Mao Xiaojiu come back to life? Chapter 750. When the old doctor announced that Mao Xiaojiu and Mao Dejiu were beyond saving, every goblin believed that Mao Xiaojiu and Mao Dejiu were dead. However, after Muyu fed them a bowl of Tian Can's blood and some random herbs, Mao Xiaojiu actually came back to life. This scared the goblins. What they were most worried about was not what would happen to Mao Xiaojiu after he came back to life. There were all kinds of strange things in the cultivation realm. Coming back to life was not a big deal. They were most worried that Mao Xiaojiu would run around uncontrollably and spread the poison gas. If the entire Dawn Valley was contaminated by the Desolate Ruins poison, it would be terrible. "Quick, let's trap him together. We can't let Mao Xiaojiu escape." Madame Zhu's voice was the loudest, waking everyone up. Every demon clan member took out their own magic weapon, and their body surged with spiritual power, ready to trap Mao Xiaojiu in the medical center. However, no one dared to take the lead, fearing that the first to rush over would be sprayed by Mao Xiaojiu's poisonous gas. Huff, huff. After Mao Xiaojiu spat out the black blood, he sat on the sickbed and gasped for breath. His sallow face had returned to normal. Although he still looked pale, his breathing was much steadier. Everyone, I am not a zombie. I really came back to life." Mao Xiaojiu panted and said to the group of goblins at the door, "Zombies can talk. Oh my god, can the Desolate Ruins poison gas control corpses now? It's over. Do we have to cremate the corpses? Hurry up and prepare the fire. Also, burn the bones of the goblins who were killed by the poison gas." The goblins were panicking. Some goblins were even preparing to dig the graves. "Don't worry, he is a living person. What are you afraid of?" Muyu shouted. Mao Xiaojiu walked down from the sickbed and kowtowed to the old doctor gratefully. "Xiaojiu thanks Grandpa Doctor for saving my life." "Huh? What happened? Why is Mao Xiaojiu kneeling?" All the goblins were shocked. Mao Xiaojiu did not look like a zombie at all. Instead, he looked normal and showed no signs of being poisoned. But how is that possible? In the past, there was no cure for such a severe Desolate Ruins poison. Mao Xiaojiu saw that her brother Mao Dejiu was still poisoned and hurriedly said, "Old doctor, your medical skills are brilliant. Quickly help me save my brother." By this time, the old doctor had already forced back the poison that had overflowed from Mao Dejiu's body. When he saw Mao Dejiu's lively appearance, he was stunned. He looked at the kneeling Mao Dejiu in disbelief, not knowing what to say for a moment. He knew the poison in the ruins better than anyone else. If one breathed in just a little bit of the poison, they could still be saved with the medical skills invented by the old doctor. However, they would still be permanently disabled. If they were poisoned as deeply as the two brothers, then it would be impossible to save them. But who would have thought that Kitten 9, who had been pronounced dead by the old doctor, would be saved by Mu Yu? And looking at Kitten 9, other than being a little weak, she looked completely fine. "Mao Xiaojiu, are you really okay?" The old doctor stretched out his hand to take Mao Xiaojiu's pulse and checked her body. He found that Mao Xiaojiu's body was a normal goblin's, except for the fact that her qi and blood were a little weak and needed to be adjusted. "Yes, Grandpa Doctor, your medical skills are brilliant. You actually found a way to cure the Desolate Ruins poison. I'm really lucky. Ancestor Azure Dragon bless me. Please help me save my brother." Mao Xiaojiu looked anxiously at Mao Dejiu, who was still lying on the bed. The old doctor suddenly blushed when he heard Mao Xiaojiu's words. At first, he had already given up on treating the Nine-Tailed brothers. The one who really saved Mao Xiaojiu was this seemingly unreliable young man. But this time, Mao Xiaojiu mistakenly thought that he had saved her and kept praising his medical skills. This was embarrassing the old doctor. Actually, you're not." The old doctor's face turned red. He was the one who told everyone that the Nine-Tailed Cat brothers were incurable under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Now that there were so many people watching outside, how could he have the nerve to take the credit for this matter? Especially when he recalled that he seemed to have angrily said that if Mu Yu could cure the poison, he would kowtow 3 times to Mu Yu. His words had been spoken so resolutely and decisively that everyone had heard it. But Mu Yu turned to Mao Xiaojiu and said, "Comrade Mao Xiaojiu, you should thank the old doctor. It's all thanks to the old doctor's precious herbs. If it weren't for these herbs, you might not be able to be saved. Oh yes, you should thank Grandpa Tian Can. His blood saved you." "Thank you, old doctor. Thank you, Uncle Tian Can," Mao Xiaojiu said slowly. Outside, the white and fat old man Tian Can was shocked. He was still angry about the 2 big bowls of blood. Why did it suddenly seem like he had become Mao Xiaojiu's savior? The old doctor's gaze at Mu Yu finally changed a little. Mu Yu did not mention kneeling and kowtowing, and even put the credit on him. This gave him a way out. Otherwise, his reputation today would really be ruined. "Little friend Mu Yu, you should hurry up and give Mao Dejiu the medicine." The old doctor hurriedly hid his embarrassment. While he was grateful to Mu Yu, he was also shocked. To be able to save people who had been poisoned by the ruins, his medical skills were much better than his. Most importantly, Mu Yu probably didn't even know where the wasteland was. Thinking of the ruins, even the old doctor felt terrified. "Okay, old doctor. You have to help me use your spiritual power to seal the wound on Mao Dejiu's body. Then I'll give Mao Dejiu the medicine. Otherwise, Grandpa Tian Can's blood will flow out, and that would be a waste. In fact, a small wound was not a problem at all, and it would not cause any blood to flow out." However, Mu Yu thought about it and decided to let the old doctor participate in the treatment. He did not have any grudges with the old doctor, and this was his clinic. If the old doctor did nothing, he would lose his status as a godly doctor in the eyes of the shifters. Mu Yu did not come to the Dawn Valley to make enemies. "Oh, okay. The old doctor breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he was grateful that Mu Yu did not let him go. He hurriedly and solemnly released spiritual power from his hand to suppress the poisonous gas spewing out of the wound. In fact, he knew that he had already suppressed the wound. Now it was unnecessary. At this moment, Mu Yu had already fed Mao Dejiu the blood of Tian Can. At the same time, he released a green spiritual power from his hand to help Mao Dejiu transfer the medicine to all parts of his body. Not long after, Mao Dejiu sat up like Mao Xiaojiu and began to spit out black blood. Then his aura began to improve. "Thank you for saving our lives, old doctor." The nine-tailed cat brothers were very grateful to the old doctor. They said a lot of touching words to the old doctor, such as how they would never forget his great kindness and how they would follow his lead in the future. Finally, under Mu Yu's kind reminder, the two brothers thanked Old Man Tian Can for a long time. "Oh, no problem, no problem. I've always been a warm-hearted person, let alone 2 bowls of blood, even if it was 3 or 4 bowls, even if it was a bucket of blood, as long as it could save you, I wouldn't even frown." Old Man Tian Can had a magnanimous and compassionate look on his face. He seemed to have forgotten that he was going to fight Mu Yu to the death. The old doctor felt ashamed. Although the herbs were taken from his clinic, if these herbs were not mixed according to a certain dosage, they would be useless. Mu Yu detoxified the poison, but the credit was given to him and Tian Can. It was too ironic. Actually, you should thank little friend Mu Yu. If it wasn't for his prescription, I'm afraid the 2 of you would have died today. In the end, the old doctor felt that it was necessary to make things clear. After all, everyone present understood that Mu Yu was the one who was tormenting them from the beginning. The old doctor didn't help at all. Moreover, Mu Yu had just given him a way out. If he continued to be greedy, it would seem unkind. Yes, Xiao Shui's taste is really good. She actually found such a good young man," Aunt Zhu said with a smile. Yes, the other devil race people echoed. Their attitude suddenly changed again. At the beginning, these people were very repulsed by Mu Yu. However, this time, Mu Yu saved the nine-tailed cat brothers with his strength. Being able to detoxify the desolate ruins poison that terrified the devil race was a great thing. At the very least, they wouldn't have to be afraid in the future. "Thank you, Brother Mu Yu. If there's anything you need us for in the future, just let us know. The 2 of us will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire," Mao Dejiu said gratefully. Mu Yu smiled. "It's nothing. The 2 of you should go back and rest." All right. Everyone disperse. Go to your own things. Disperse. The old doctor quickly sent everyone away. Only Mu Yu and the old doctor were left in the clinic. The old doctor stuttered for a moment before saying, "I was blind just now. Please forgive me for offending you." Xiao Shui jumped onto Mu Yu's shoulder and said in a childish voice, "Hey, old man, you said that you would kowtow to Mu Yu if he could detoxify the desolate ruins poison. Isn't it time to fulfill your promise now?" The old doctor was embarrassed by Xiao Shui's words. He was a highly respected miracle doctor in the devil race. How could a miracle doctor like him kowtow to a human kid? How could he accept it with his pride? However, the old doctor was a very principled person. He didn't let Mu Yu try because he was worried that Mu Yu would mess around and spread the desolate ruins poison, killing everyone in the Valley of Dawn. Later, he said that he would kowtow because he was flustered and exasperated. Now that everyone was not present, it wasn't a big deal to fulfill his promise. I mean what I say. The old doctor bent his body and was about to kow to Mu Yu, but Mu Yu quickly stopped him. He smiled casually and said, "Old doctor, I was just saying, if you kneel to me, Xiao Shui will kill me if she finds out. Besides, it's all thanks to you that I managed to detoxify the poison. Without those herbs, I wouldn't have been able to save anyone." The old doctor said gratefully, "Mu Yu, you flatter me. I didn't do anything to detoxify the desolate ruins poison." After a while, the old doctor continued, "Mu Yu, are you a doctor too?" "Me? I guess so." Mu Yu thought about it. He was a poison master. Back in the Wither Tree Valley, he was just a lab rat. He had tasted countless poisons. It was a miracle that he survived. Chapter 751. Do you want my antidote formula? Mu Yu looked at the old doctor's hesitant expression. In fact, he had already guessed what the old doctor wanted to say. The old doctor found it difficult to speak. When he heard Mu Yu take the initiative to make things clear, he felt very awkward. In the beginning, he and the other demon clansmen did not believe that Mu Yu could cure the desolate ruins poison. They even tried to stop Muyu from saving people. However, Muyu had unexpectedly cured the desolate ruins poison that troubled the demon clansmen. Now, he wanted to ask Muyu for the antidote formula. It seemed somewhat unreasonable. However, when the old doctor thought of the demon clansmen who had died because of the desolate ruins poison, he felt extremely regretful and said solemnly, "Little friend Muyu, what happened just now was indeed this old man being arrogant. I also know that a doctor generally cherishes his or her own medicine, so he or she won't divulge his or her prescription to others. So, I don't want to resort to trickery and robbery. So, little friend Muyu, if you want anything, just tell me. As long as you can tell this old man the prescription to detoxify the poison, this old man will be willing to exchange anything with you." However, Muyu said generously, "It's just an antidote formula. It's no big deal. I'll write down the dosage of various herbs, the order of preparation, and the resistance refining technique for you." The old doctor was overjoyed. He originally thought that Muyu would refuse in every possible way, but he never expected Muyu to agree so readily. Thus, he said, "Then, little friend Muyu, if you have any requests, feel free to state them. As long as you can obtain the antidote for the desolate ruins poison, I can give you anything." Muyu shook his head. "No need. I just casually got this formula. I'll give it to you for free. I don't need anything." Young Muyu, you're willing to give me the antidote formula for the desolate ruins poison for free?" The old doctor was in disbelief. To a doctor, many formulas were quite confidential. How could they give them away so casually? Even if he gave it to someone else, he would definitely get something in return. However, Muyu didn't seem to care about this precious antidote formula at all. This really surprised the old doctor. Although the old doctor had seen the herbs that Muyu had used, the old doctor didn't know the dosage of the herbs. Moreover, he wasn't very clear about the method of refining the herbs. Once the dosage of a certain herb was too high, the entire prescription would lose its effectiveness. The old doctor could not help but ask, "Muyu, do you know what the desolate ruins poison means to us? It's important to you, but it's not a big deal to me." Muyu generously said. He didn't often save people's lives or treat them. Most of the time, if there was any injury or illness, it would be solved by a pill. If one pill couldn't solve the problem, he would use two. But then again, the pills that he had extorted from the high-level alchemists of the Pill Cauldron sect were almost used up. Would he have to extort some more? He wrote down the antidote formula for the desolate ruins poison in detail and told the old doctor that every medicine was 30% poison. If the dosage wasn't right, not only would it not be able to cure the poison, it would also cause the poison to spread faster. The antidote wasn't fixed. Instead, it had to be reduced or increased according to the amount of poison. Muyu taught the old doctor how to determine the amount of desolate ruins poison in the poisoned person's body. When the time came, he would have to prescribe the right medicine. The dosage would be the same as the amount of poison. When dealing with the desolate ruins poison in the nine-tailed cat brothers' bodies, Muyu used different dosages on them. "Little friend Muyu, I didn't expect you to be such a selfless person. Originally, I always thought that the human race was selfish, but it seems that's not the case. The relationship between the human race and the demon race isn't good, but little friend Muyu is able to let bygones be bygones and have such a broad mind. Not only did you save our two clansmen, but you're also willing to give the antidote formula to this old man. You're truly a great person." The old doctor was not stingy with his praise for Muyu. This flattering praise made Muyu feel a little embarrassed. What kind of place is this desolate ruins? What's with the poisonous fog there? Muyu coughed twice and quickly changed the topic. Otherwise, the old doctor's words would make him lose his sense of direction. The old doctor sighed and said, "Little friend Muyu, you just came to the demon race, so you don't know much about us demons. You should know that thousands of years ago, the human race..." Little friend Muyu, I hope you don't mind what I'm saying. The human race drove us monster race to this remote place in the West. This place used to be desolate and uninhabited. There were swamps everywhere. There were countless powerful poisonous insects and ferocious beasts. Those poisonous insects and ferocious beasts were not yet civilized. They were not afraid of us at all, let alone the human race. Even us monster race found it difficult to survive in this harsh illusion. Although the old doctor didn't live in that era, every demon had heard of the hardships of that era. If it wasn't for the existence of the Azure Dragon Demon King, the old, weak, and sick demons wouldn't have been able to survive. Later on, Ancestor Azure Dragon led us to rebuild our home here and intermarried with other demons. He used his bloodline to strengthen the demon race's constitution. Those of us who don't have the true dragon bloodline are considered the most primitive remnants of the demon race. However, Ancestor Azure Dragon repeatedly ordered us not to go to the desolate ruins in the west. The old doctor's expression became very serious. The desolate ruins in the west? What kind of place is that? Muyu asked curiously. We don't know, but Ancestor Azure Dragon said that the desolate ruins in the west is the end of the 3 continents. The end of the continent. I always thought that the end of the continent was the sea. Muyu was no stranger to the sea. He had just returned from the sea demon King Yujiang and had been entangled with the people of the Gate of Hell for a while. You're wrong. The sea has its end, and the continent has its end. The sea and the continent only intersect at one place, and that is the Moyun mountain range. This world is not round, but a flat land. On the continent, other than the east side of the Moyun mountain range where you can see the sea, if you fly in any other direction for a few years, you will eventually be inadvertently teleported back to the origin by some kind of power. Only if you fly west will you reach the territory of our demon clan, but you'll be blocked by the poisonous fog outside the desolate ruins. The old doctor obviously knew more about this world than Muyu. His words also made Muyu very curious. Although he had been running around in the cultivation world, he never knew that there was an end to the continent and the sea. Then, what is hidden at the end of the continent? Muyu was curious about the desolate ruins. The old doctor shook his head. No one knows. Maybe Ancestor Azure Dragon has been there, but we don't know much about this. The only thing we know is that the poisonous fog near the desolate ruins is too terrifying. Usually, it only drifts in the westernmost area, but sometimes when the wind blows, the poisonous fog will drift to the area where our demon clan lives. We can't do anything about this poisonous fog. Muyu, you are the first person who can deal with this poisonous fog. Then how do you usually treat those who are poisoned? If the poisonous fog often drifted to the area where the demon clan lived, it meant that many demon clan members would be poisoned intentionally or unintentionally. Usually, those people would give up treatment like the old doctor. How could the demon clan members continue to live? The old doctor blushed slightly. If they only inhaled a little, I would use my spiritual energy to force the poison to a certain part of their body, such as their fingers or toes, and then amputate them. In serious cases, I might cut off their entire hand, or even their lower body or all 4 limbs. These are all up to them to choose which part to cut off. But today, the 9-tailed cat brothers were deeply poisoned. I was basically helpless because their entire body was covered in poison and it could even leak out. There was no way to save them. If they were treated like this, they would live in pain for the rest of their lives. Muyu sympathized with these demon clan members. They had migrated to a place like the Western Peak and were constantly threatened by the poisonous fog of the desolate ruins. The living conditions were not easy. Fortunately, little friend Muyu came to help. This old man is really ashamed. After practicing medicine for my entire life, I can't even scratch the surface of Muyu's skills. For little friend Muyu to teach this old man the antidote formula, this old man can't thank you enough. Muyu, you are a great benefactor of the demon clan. The old doctor bowed. You flatter me. I will be staying here for a while. Thank you for taking care of me, Muyu quickly said. To him, the antidote formula of the desolate ruins was insignificant. Not all demon clan members were scum like Long Xingyun. The demon clan members in the Valley of Dawn, at least in Muyu's eyes, were simple and honest people. Those who nitpicked on him, Madam Spider, Elder Silkworm, and the others, were just thinking about Xiao Shui. Muyu, you must be joking. When Xiao Shui came back, the white ape ancestor said that she missed a human boy. All the demon clan members in the Valley of Dawn were worried sick about Xiao Shui and wanted to find her a good man. But now, it seems that Xiao Shui was right. We were just overthinking. The old doctor stroked his beard and smiled. In the demon clan's view, Xiao Shui would only find a good man if she married a demon clan member. It's useless for you to acknowledge me. That damned old monkey is still complaining about me. Muyu muttered. He had only saved the nine-tailed cat brothers, but all the demon clan members in the Valley of Dawn had changed their view of him. He had saved the white ape demon king from the second layer of heaven, but the white ape demon king still shamelessly despised him and did not even thank him. Muyu, who is this old monkey you're talking about? Tell me, and I'll help you. Did that mischievous Hodamao in the valley disrespect you? Don't worry, I'll warn him, the old doctor said solemnly. The old physician said solemnly. He thought that the old hairy monkey Muyu was talking about was a fae from the Valley of Dawn. Now that Muyu had brought out the antidote formula for the Desolate Ruins poison, it would be inexcusable if he was ignored. Old man, you can't make the decision. Xiao Shui laughed as he stood on Muyu's shoulder. The old doctor straightened his back and said, Don't worry, all the demon clan members in the Valley of Dawn will give me face. Even Monkey Damao won't dare disobey me. The old monkey Muyu is talking about is the white ape demon king. Xiao Shui laughed. Ah, the old doctor's face froze. He looked frightened. What kind of existence was the white ape demon king? How could he make the decision? He regretted his words. Gossips about the demon king should not be spoken carelessly. Then, the old doctor seemed to have thought of something. He said in shock, Wait, Muyu, you're not the young human who saved the white ape demon king, are you? Muyu nodded and asked curiously, That's right. I was the one who saved that old monkey. Not only him, but even the sea demon king was saved by me. I thought you guys already knew about this. The old doctor opened his mouth wide, looking a little terrified. I haven't asked Xiao Shui about this. Oh my God, didn't I just disrespect the benefactor of the two demon king patriarchs? Muyu, please forgive me. I really didn't do it on purpose. The old doctor looked very anxious and uneasy. He seemed to be at a loss. Muyu laughed. It's okay. That old monkey doesn't like me anyway. If you deliberately make things difficult for me, that old monkey might even reward you. I won't take it to heart. Little friend Mu, you must be joking. Little friend Muyu is really a magnanimous person. The old doctor gave a hollow laugh in fear. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.